Chapter 442. In the afternoon, Grand Emperor City is packed with people. All the citizens know that today, Grand Emperor City is going to bury the young city lord and execute the traitor who killed the young city lord, Yuan Shohua. Yuan Bu Po and the Yuan family couple were unable to sit still at this moment. Little Honglan has been out for 5 or 6 days. They do not know if she has found Yun Tsanglang. Yuan Bupo and Yuan Shanshan exchanged glances. The two of them are unable to sit still. Madame Yuan's expression is miserable. Yuan Wutsu's expression is also gloomy. He originally thought that after revealing the map of the underground prison, he would lead Yuan Bupo and Yuan Shanshan to rescue Yuan Shohua and then secretly send her out of the city. Who knew that Yuan Shohua already has the intention to die and is unwilling to leave? Could it be that he can only watch as his eldest daughter is executed? She's out. That traitor is out. The citizens are in an uproar. A group of people appeared on the city gate. When they saw the woman in the middle, the people in the city all cursed angrily. Yuan Bupo and the rest also saw Yuan Shohua. At the same time, they also saw Yuan Shohua's wedding dress that is redder than flames. Damn it! They dare to humiliate eldest sister like this. Yuan Bupo saw the wedding dress and saw the smug Madame Bai at the side. He was instantly enraged. This is too much. Father, mother, isn't Madame Bai's actions clearly humiliating our Yuan family? Yuan Shanshan saw her sister in agony and felt terrible. Madame Yuan's eyes were filled with tears. She tried her best not to look at her daughter. Yuan Wutsu could not help but hold onto his chair. His tiger eyes flashed with anger, humiliation, and agitation. Father, I want to save eldest sister. Yuan Bupo could no longer stand still. No. Your eldest sister, she does not want to burden us. Yuan Wutsu looked at his eldest daughter Yuan Shohua for the last time. Despite the humiliation, Yuan Shohua did not look at her family. At this point, Yuan Shohua only wished for a quick death. She did not want to burden her family. Xian Wuji's coffin was brought out. Beside his coffin, there was another coffin. It was prepared for Yuan Shohua. They wanted to nail her to the coffin and bury her with Xian Wuji. At noon, Yuan Shohua, dressed in red, was escorted to the coffin. Yuan Shohua was pushed towards the coffin. With every step she took, Yuan Bu Po felt pain in his heart. The moment Yuan Shohua was pushed into the coffin, Yuan Bupo couldn't stand it anymore. No, father, I can't do it. He held the dragon flute in his hand and was about to rush into the crowd. At this moment, the crisp sound of birds chirping came from the sky. Following the sound of birds chirping, a clear male voice could be heard echoing outside the Grand Emperor City. I am Yun Tsanglang from Ju State. I am here to pay my respects to the city lord of Grand Emperor City. Outside the city gate, there were 3 people standing in the air. They were Yun Tsanglang in the middle, Zhongyi on the left, and Yun Sheng on the right. Yuan Shohua, who already had 1 foot in the coffin, trembled when she heard that familiar yet strange voice. She looked up at the sky in disbelief. The city lord of Grand Emperor City, Xian Sitian, also noticed the 3 people in the air. He noticed that the 3 of them didn't have any flying demonic beasts. 3 experts with flying abilities came all of a sudden. Even the city lord of Grand Emperor City couldn't help but look askance. Yun Tsanglang looked down from above. He struggled to find Yuan Shohua's figure in the crowd. Although he didn't see Yuan Shohua's face clearly, Yun Tsanglang recognized that familiar figure at a glance. When he saw that Yuan Shohua was wearing a wedding dress, a ruthless aura surged wildly around him. City Lord, that person is Yun Tsanglang. Beside him is the sacred beast summoner, Zhongyi, and his niece, Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng is the female magician who stole the Emperor Jade. She seems to have the elf clan's Hellfire brand on her body. Also, I heard that her medical skills are very good. She was the one who cured Yun Tsanglang's hand. When the Great Elder saw Yun Tsanglang again, he realized that he had indeed become a martial saint after being tempered by heavenly lightning. In less than half a month, Yun Tsanglang's strength had increased by a lot. In his rage, he wasn't sure if he could defeat Yun Tsanglang. When Xian Sitian heard this, Lady Ru, who was beside him, hurried forward. City Lord, you said that girl is a divine doctor. Then can she help Maimai see her face? Lady Ru was Xian Meimei's mother. She only had one daughter and doted on Xian Maimai very much. Xian Maimai was burned by the hellfire and no one in Grand Emperor City could heal her. Although Lady Ru was only a concubine, she was Xian Sitian's personal maid. If it wasn't for Xian Sitian wanting to snatch the City Lord's position and having to marry Lady Bai, she would have been the City Lord's wife. However, Xian Sitian was deeply in love with her and didn't hesitate to take her as his concubine. When Xian Wuji died, the happiest person was Lady Ru. Without a child, Lady Bai would definitely fall out of favor in a few years. On the other hand, Xian Meimei's talent was better than Xian Wuji's. It was only because she was a girl that she lost the right to inherit the City Lord's position. However, Lady Ru had already planned this in her heart. Although her daughter's chance of inheriting the City Lord's position was very small, it wasn't just a matter of a day or two that her daughter admired Yuan Bupo. If she could take this opportunity to sell a favor to House Yuan, then in the future, when the two families become in-laws, she would still be the future City Lord's mother-in-law and her power wouldn't be weakened. Thinking of this, Lady Ru didn't hate Yun Tsanglang and the others. Instead, she was grateful to them. However, before that, she had to find a way to heal Meimei's face. Coincidentally, at this moment, Great Elder mentioned that one of them was a divine doctor. Lady Ru became cautious and kindly advised him. Lady Ru, what do you mean by this? Yun Tsanglang is the enemy of Grand Emperor City. How can we let him enter the city? City Lord, although Wuji was killed by Yuan Shohua, in the end, it was because of Yun Tsanglang. In my opinion, we should immediately kill them with arrows. After Lady Bai finished speaking, she had already summoned archers and aimed at the people in the sky. Wait. Xian Sitian looked at Yun Sheng and Yun Tsanglang meaningfully. As the City Lord, he definitely wouldn't let hatred get to his head. Although he had to avenge his son's death, 3 powerful experts couldn't be killed in an instant. Moreover, these 3 people weren't ordinary people. Behind them, there was a high possibility that Ju State and Immortal Ju Nation. Although Grand Emperor City's strength wasn't bad, they obviously didn't have much chance of winning against 2 powerful nations in the continent. It's her. Yuan Bupo also saw the 3 people in the sky. However, his gaze immediately landed on Yun Sheng, who was on the right. Yun Sheng was in the sky. Her long hair was casually tied behind her back and she wore a moon-white magic robe. Her delicate face was like a piece of beautiful jade under the sunlight, white and flawless. Yuan Bupo was mesmerized by her. Only then did he realize how much he missed the beautiful figure in the sky. The City Lord of Grand Emperor City pondered for a moment. He suddenly soared into the sky and a boundless and powerful aura instantly attacked. Chapter 443. Yun Sheng, Zhong Shi, and Yun Tsanglang all sensed the intimidating aura emanating from the other party. It was rumored that the Grand Emperor City's City Lord had already surpassed Emperor Zhao. Was this the strength of Emperor Zhao? Yun Sheng couldn't help but feel shocked. Although she possessed the demon summoning hand and had once disguised herself as an expert on the level of Emperor Zhao, she only realized how weak she was when facing an expert on the level of Emperor Zhao. Xian Sitian soared into the sky and stood there. He didn't attack. An expert on the level of Emperor Zhao could instantly kill the 3 of them if he summoned his demonic beast. However, Xian Sitian clearly didn't intend to do so. Time passed by slowly. City Lord. I beg City Lord to grant Shohua death. Yun Tsanglang's sudden appearance touched Yuan Shohua, but more than that, she was worried. She hurriedly knelt on the ground and begged for death. No. Shohua, I already know. It's been hard on you all these years. Everything happened because of me. Even if I have to die, I should be the one to do it. Yun Tsanglang looked at Yuan Shohua affectionately. The woman's delicate body couldn't help but tremble when she heard his confession. Even though I've become like this, are you still willing to die for me? Yuan Shohua suddenly raised her head. Her face, which was covered with all kinds of scars, was presented to Yun Tsanglang. Yun Tsanglang's expression changed. He looked at Yuan Shohua and was speechless for a long time. Yuan Shohua wept in pain. Even she didn't want to look at her current appearance, let alone Yun Tsunglong. Men all liked to have a good appearance. Now that Yun Tsunglong was a newly ascended martial saint, the woman standing beside him must be an unparalleled beauty. Yuan Shohua was disheartened. She suddenly took out a hairpin from her body. The tip of the hairpin was extremely sharp. She had prepared that hairpin long ago. She had already prepared herself. If Madame Bai insisted on humiliating her, she would rather commit suicide than share the same coffin as Xian Wuji. The sharp end of the hairpin glinted coldly as it pierced down towards Yuan Shohua's delicate neck. Like a flash of lightning, Yun Tsunglong suddenly swooped down from the sky. His palm blocked Yuan Shohua's hairpin. When the hairpin met with his duki, it was immediately repelled. Beauty withered to bones in an instant. Shohua, I've never cared about such things. What I like has always been the pure and beautiful Yuan Sho painting, which resonates with my zither and flute. It was the Yuan Shohua who did not hesitate to sever ties with her family for me. She accompanied me on the battlefield for 3 days and 3 nights without sleep. All these years, you've always been in my heart, said Yun Tsunglong affectionately. His eyes were filled with affection. Yuan Shohua felt a lump in her throat. She raised her head and looked at the man who was as affectionate as ever. She could not help but cry. The two of them ignored the gazes of the crowd and hugged each other. At that moment, the citizens of Grand Emperor City were also deathly silent. They seemed to have been touched by the feelings of the two. The eyes of the Yuan clansmen could not help but moisten. Madame Yuan kept wiping her tears. Yuan Bu Po and Yuan Shanshan heaved a sigh of relief. Only Madame Bai had an angry look on her face. The Grand Emperor City Lord coughed a few times. Yun Sheng and Zhong Yi, who were in the sky, were also a little embarrassed. They did not forget that they were in a dangerous situation. Second uncle, if you want to confess to second aunt, you should at least look at the situation. We seem to have more important things to discuss. Yun Sheng landed lightly on the ground. The wings on her back had disappeared. She gave Yuan Shohua a friendly wink. When Yuan Shohua heard Yun Sheng call her that, she was extremely shy and hid her face in Yun Tsunglong's embrace. Yun Tsunglong smiled awkwardly. The two of them had been so emotional that they had forgotten the situation. Xian Sitian also noticed it. Only then did he realize that the wings on Yun Sheng's back were not ordinary battle chi wings or magic wings. This made him even more suspicious of Yun Sheng's identity. City Lord Xian, the matter between me and Shohua has caused a lot of trouble for Grand Emperor City. If you want to investigate the death of the young City Lord, Tsunglong will not shirk his responsibility. However, the young City Lord is already dead. I hope that City Lord can take into account Tsunglong and Ju State's Yun residents and handle this matter appropriately, Yun Tsunglong said to Xian Sitian in a clear voice. In order to resolve the many years of grievances between Grand Emperor City and Yun residents, I hope that City Lord can find a quiet place for us to sit down and discuss. Yun Sheng was very clever. She could also see that the City Lord of Grand Emperor City had some misgivings about them. Xian Sitian ordered someone to invite Yun Sheng alone to discuss the matter. When Yuan Shohua saw this, she wanted to stop her but was stopped by Yun Tsunglong. Don't worry, Sheng is very clever. She won't be taken advantage of. Why don't you take me to visit your parents? Before he left, Yun Sheng had said that once they entered the city, she would have a way to make the City Lord promise to let Yuan Shohua go. Yun Sheng followed the City Lord into a side hall. Zhong Yi wanted to follow but was sent away by her. Seeing Yun Sheng so fearless, the City Lord became even more suspicious of her identity. City Lord, Yun Sheng has come to visit and disturbed you. I have specially prepared 2 gifts for you. She took out a bottle of pills and a box and handed it to the City Lord. The Grand Emperor City Lord ordered the Great Elder to accept it. The Great Elder opened the medicine bottle and saw 3 purple gold myriad ginseng pills inside. As for the wooden box, there was a stack of letters. They were all evidence of the correspondence between the Bloodhand Tycoon and Xian Wuji in the past. City Lord, these are saint-grade pills. The first elder saw the myriad golden pills and was overjoyed. Saint-grade pills had always been monopolized by the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Moreover, these 3 myriad golden pills were refined from the purple ginseng. For ordinary people, they could preserve their youth. For warriors and magicians, they could be reborn. The other party had taken out 3 pills at once. It was clear that she was a true genius doctor who could refine Saint-grade pills. When he looked at the wooden box again, Xian Xitian's expression turned ugly. He glanced at Yun Sheng and realized that this female magician was very cunning. This was a classic example of giving a sweet date and then a slap in the face. What do you mean by this? Are you threatening this city lord? Xian Xitian said angrily. As the city lord, he had never been threatened in such a way. City lord, please don't misunderstand. Yun Sheng is just returning it to its rightful owner. From now on, no one will know the relationship between the Bloodhound Tycoon and the City Lord, Yun Sheng said with a smile. City Lord. Lady Ru walked in from outside. Beside her was Shen Maimai, who was wearing a gauze hat. Lady Ru was indeed gentle and graceful. Compared to the fiendish Lady Bai, she was much more likable. She softly said a few words to the City Lord. It's you. Why did you come to the City Lord? Father, it's this woman who caused me to become like this. Shen Maimai was filled with anger when she saw Yun Sheng. Miss Shen, you should be careful when lying. Your face was clearly injured by Bian's fire array. Why are you blaming me? To think that I even planned to help you recover your appearance this time. Yun Sheng rolled her eyes. Chapter 444. Did this woman eat gunpowder? She's jumping up and down every time she sees me. Yun Sheng was considered slow when it came to relationships. She did not know that the reason why Xian Maimai hated her was because she vaguely felt that Yuan Bupo had feelings for this female sorcerer with the surname Yun. Previously, she did not pay much attention to Yun Sheng and only thought that her appearance could only be considered delicate. However, after fusing with the hellfire in the Earth's core, Xian Maimai realized that Yun Sheng's aura was slightly different. Yun Sheng's facial features had changed to a certain extent. From time to time, she would exude a terrifying charm that was as bright as a flame. In a few more years, who knew what kind of devastatingly beautiful appearance she would become? Thinking of this and thinking of her current appearance, Xian Maimai became even angrier. She wanted to take out a knife and cut Yun Sheng's face into pieces. Lady Ru and City Lord Xian knew their daughter's temper well. When Lady Ru heard this, she ignored Xian Meimei's complaints and asked Yun Sheng earnestly, "Little magic doctor, do you really have a way to cure Meimei's face?" Xian Meimei's face had become a sore point for Lady Ru these days. She only had one daughter, Xian Maimai. Now that her daughter was of marriageable age, her face was very important. Originally, Lady Ru had planned to think of a way to get the city governor to settle the marriage between Xian Maimai and Yuan Bu Po after Xian Maimai returned from her training trip. Who knew that Xian Meimei's face would turn out like that at such a crucial moment? Yuan Bu Po did not like Xian Maimai very much. If she had a face that was burned by the hellfire, it would be even more difficult to settle the marriage. Mother, don't listen to her nonsense. What ability could she possibly have? Even the doctors in the city can't do anything about the injuries on my face. Xian Maimai couldn't help but burst into tears at this point. She even tugged at Xian Xitian as she cried, "Father, you must find a way to heal this face. I don't want to end up like Yuan Shohua and live with this ugly face for the rest of my life." Yun Sheng frowned when she heard that. She really hated Xian Maimai. What was wrong with Yuan Sho's face? In her eyes, her second aunt's face was 1,000,000 times prettier than Xian Meimei's. It was all because of the coercion of the Xian clan that she had no choice but to scratch her own face. Such an unyielding woman should be worthy of admiration. However, Yun Sheng had already made up her mind. No matter what, she had to cure Yuan Shahua's face. Although second uncle didn't care about these things, second aunt would inevitably hold a grudge in her heart. For the sake of their marriage, she had to cure Yuan Shohua. As for Xian Meimei's face, she would just treat it as a convenient treatment. City Lord. Young Master Yuan Bu Po is outside seeking an audience. After the report, that rash kid, Yuan Bu Po, barged in. This kid didn't care about the occasion. The moment he entered, he said, "City Lord, Mei's injury has nothing to do with Miss Yun. Please don't blame her." After Yuan Shohua was rescued by Yun Tsunglang in time, the City Lord didn't say anything about pursuing Yuan Shohua's crime. The entire Yuan residence was naturally overjoyed. However, Yuan Bu Po's face was filled with worry. He was worried that Xian Maimai would frame Yun Sheng when she saw her. Hence, he ignored his parents' objections and insisted on rushing to the City Lord's residence. Just as he entered, he discovered that Xian Maimai and Lady Ru were both present. Yun Sheng was standing there perfectly fine. When she saw him, she nodded in a friendly manner. When Yuan Bupo saw Yun Sheng standing there with a sweet smile on her face, he suddenly blushed. His voice, which was originally shouting, immediately quieted down. He did not know where to look and where to put his hands and feet. When the City Lord and Lady Ru saw this, they looked at Xian Maimai, who was so angry that her eyeballs were about to fall out. They instantly understood. Everyone in the City Lord knew that the genius of the Yuan family, Yuan Bu Po, had always been arrogant. He had never shown any good attitude to any woman in the city, not even Xian Maimai. However, looking at his current appearance of being in love for the first time, it was clear that he had a good impression of Yun Sheng. Perhaps Yun Sheng was the only one present who didn't feel anything. The City Lord couldn't help but complain. He looked at Yun Sheng, who was standing at the side. She was like a proud snow plum, smiling sweetly. No matter when, she was calm, polite, and natural. Then, he looked at his own daughter, who was unruly and willful. With such a comparison, anyone would know who to choose. Bu Po, you child, you're also impetuous. Why did you barge in so recklessly? If your mother knew, she would scold you again. Lady Ru had followed the City Lord for many years. She was very clear about a man's mentality. She didn't expose him. Miracle Dr. Yun is an important guest. How could we neglect him? Just now, I brought Maimai to see Miracle Dr. Yun. Miracle Dr. Yun said that he has a way to cure Mei's face. That's right, I have a way. Miss Xian's face was injured by the elven hellfire. There's only one way to cure it, and that's the water of life from the elven imperial court. The moment Yun Sheng said that, the City Lord and Yuan Bu Po's expressions changed slightly. When Xian Maimai heard that, she immediately shouted, "Father, what are we waiting for? Quickly order someone to find the water of life. Maimai, don't mess around. Do you think it's so easy to find the water of life?" The City Lord was considered a top expert on the mainland. However, when he heard about the Elven Imperial Court, he still revealed a cautious expression. The Elven Imperial Court had always been a very special existence on the mainland. It was the only one among the 5 major countries on the mainland that had never been at war. Even during the most turbulent years on the mainland, the Elven Imperial Court had always existed in a neutral position. This was because whether it was the elven race or their descendants, they all liked peace and didn't like to invade. However, this didn't mean that the Elven Imperial Court was easy to bully. In the past, the Tang Yuan Kingdom had tried to invade the Elven Imperial Court because it was adjacent to the Elven Imperial Court. However, just as they approached the border of the Elven Imperial Court, countless elven warriors appeared. In just a moment, the Elven Imperial Court's invading army, which had a powerful sorcerer, was annihilated. The Tang Yuan Kingdom's army was completely annihilated. In the end, no one was left alive. That was the most tragic defeat since the founding of the Tang Yuan Kingdom. As there were no survivors, no one knew what kind of defense the Elven Imperial Court had sent. Some people said that it was countless elven warriors. Others said that the Elven Imperial Court had only sent a powerful elven sorcerer. The sorcerer only used a powerful elven sorcerer to annihilate the Tang Yuan Kingdom's army. However, since then, no one dared to invade the Elven Imperial Court. Even the citizens of other countries found it difficult to enter the Elven Imperial Court. The water of life that Yun Sheng mentioned did exist. However, it was a legendary item in the Elven Imperial Court's forest. The outside world had no chance of obtaining it. The only way to obtain the water of life was to enter the Elven Imperial Court and obtain the Elven Queen's permission. And this was undoubtedly a very difficult point. We still need to consider this matter at length. The city lord didn't make a decision immediately. However, his attitude toward Yunsheng was obviously much more respectful. He even ordered people to arrange accommodation in the city for Yunsheng and the other two. Chapter 445. Yun Songlong was relieved to see that Yunsheng had returned safely. He arrived at the Yuan residence with Yuan Shohua. Perhaps it was because he had confessed to Yuan Shohua earlier, but Yuan Wuxiu and Madame Yuan had a much better impression of this son-in-law. The family happily accepted Yun Songlong and were very polite to Yunsheng. Yuan Shohua did not expect that things would take such a turn. After her joy, she felt a little lonely. Yunsheng noticed this and sneaked over to Yuan Shahua's side. "Hello, second aunt. I am Yunsheng, second uncle's precious niece. Is there something on your mind, second aunt?" Yuan Shohua was embarrassed by Yunsheng calling her second aunt. She spat. "Who is your second aunt? Little girl, you're so mischievous. Be careful that you won't be able to get married in the future. A good girl doesn't have to worry about marriage. Besides, I already have a fiancé." Yunsheng pursed her lips. She had a fiancé? Yuan Shohua was stunned. She had asked around earlier and found out that Yunsheng was not even 9 years old. She already had a fiancé at 9 years old? Yunsheng did not say much and only looked at Yuan Shohua. "Second aunt, are you unhappy because of your face?" Yuan Shohua did not expect that Yunsheng would see through her. She nodded silently. Back then, she had seen Yun Songlong's crippled body and blamed herself. After returning to Grand Emperor City, Xian Wuji had repeatedly pestered her. Helpless, she had simply destroyed her face. At that time, she had thought that she and Yun Songlong would never be able to continue their relationship in this lifetime, so she no longer cared about her appearance. But now that she and Yun Songlong had reunited, her face had become her greatest worry. A woman would doll herself up for the one she loved. She knew that Yun Songlong did not care about her face, but she did not want him to be made fun of by others. "I have a way to cure second aunt's face, but I need to make a trip to the immortal Ju nation." Yunsheng told Yuan Shohua about the water of life. Yuan Shahua's reaction was exactly the same as the Grand Emperor City Lord. She also didn't approve of Yunsheng going to the immortal Keeper nation. Elves were a very strange race. They were very resistant to humans, not to mention that Yunsheng and the others still had to find their holy water, the water of life. "It's too dangerous. It's not worth it to take such a huge risk for my face." Yuan Shohua knew that Yunsheng's position in Yun Songlong's heart was similar to her own. She was very considerate and didn't want Yunsheng to take the risk for her. "Second aunt, to tell you the truth, I have to find the water of life. You should have heard about old General Yun and Xian Meimei's face. Both of them need the water of life to heal. If we want to completely resolve the enmity between Grand Emperor City and Yun residence, we must find the water of life." Yunsheng had heard from Xia Wenshu that the water of life had a miraculous effect. It could purify a person's physique. Not only that, it also had a strong healing effect. She had checked the wound on Yuan Shohua's face. It was drawn with a blunt instrument. It could be seen that Yuan Shohua had been ruthless back then. Since the water of life had such a strong effect, Yunsheng even thought that if she found the water of life, she might be able to cure the strange poison in Yun Songlong's body. As for Grand Emperor City, after considering it, he would definitely go to the immortal Keeper nation to find the water of life for Xian Meimei. In order to resolve the enmity between Grand Emperor City and Yun residence, and to facilitate the marriage between Yun Songlong and Yuan Shohua, the water of life must be found. When Yuan Shohua heard that, she knew that Yunsheng had already made up her mind. She thought for a while and said, "How about this? I will discuss with Yuan Bupo and let him accompany you to the immortal Keeper nation." When Yuan Bupo heard that he was going with Yunsheng, he didn't hesitate and immediately agreed. As for the City Lord residence, Grand Emperor City had also decided to send people to the immortal Keeper nation to find the water of life. Xian Meimei heard from somewhere that Yuan Bupo was going with Yunsheng. She refused to go no matter what and insisted on going with them. Yun Sheng didn't mind. She remembered that Divine Wind was in the Immortal Keeper Nation. He was a noble prince of the Immortal Keeper Nation. He might be able to help her with the Water of Life. Yun Tsanglang originally planned to go as well. However, at this moment, a letter was sent from Ju State. The letter said that the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps had received an A-rank mission. Ju Quan couldn't handle it alone, so he wrote a letter to Yun Tsanglang asking him to return immediately. This was the first time the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps had received an A-rank mission. As the leader, Yun Tsanglang was duty-bound to return. Yun Sheng knew that her second uncle would feel guilty and comforted him. Yun Sheng even asked Zhongyi to accompany Yun Tsanglang back to the Jade Capital. The Blood Cloud Beast Ring was also given to Yun Tsanglang. Yun Sheng still had a divine weapon like the Demon Summoning Hand. She believed that she had absolute confidence in snatching the Water of Life from the fairies. Yun Tsanglang and Yuan Shohua hadn't been reunited for long before they had to part again. The two were reluctant to part. That day, Yun Tsanglang left Grand Emperor City. Grand Emperor City's city lord personally selected a group of elites from Grand Emperor City. There were more than 30 people in total. Yun Sheng saw the large number of people and understood that Grand Emperor City's city lord was still worried about her. Rather than saying that these people were accompanying her, it was more accurate to say that they were here to monitor her. The group stayed in Grand Emperor City for 2 more days before setting off for the Immortal Keeper Nation. Miss Yun, this Chongming bird is mine. It flies very steadily. You should ride it. Yuan Bupo and the rest left Grand Emperor City. As the journey to the Immortal Keeper Nation was longer than before, Grand Emperor City's city lord prepared dozens of Chongming birds. Most of the people in Grand Emperor City had mounts. Only Yun Sheng didn't have one. Most of the Chongming birds in the city were shy with strangers. Yuan Bupo very considerately gave one of the Chongming birds that he had tamed to Yun Sheng. Brother Bupo, why did you give your mount to her? Xian Meimei's mouth was full of jealousy. Just as Yuan Bupo was about to get angry, the red-blue icefire Luan perched on Yuan Bupo's shoulder flapped its wings and landed on Yun Sheng's body. It pecked at Yun Sheng's hair affectionately. It looked as if it was trying to curry favor with her. Yun Sheng had the exquisite beast pagoda hidden on her body. The icefire Luan liked to be close to her so that its cultivation could increase faster. However, this intimate action had an unusual meaning in Yuan Bupo and Xian Meimei's eyes. Yuan Bupo's eyes lit up. He looked at Yun Sheng with a burning gaze. Although his icefire Luan was small in size and had hatched not long ago, its wild nature was still very strong. Even if it was Yuan Bupo's parents, when they got close, it would chirp non-stop. If it was serious, it would just fly away and ignore them. It was the first time that it had behaved so intimately with someone. It could be seen that the icefire Luan liked Yun Sheng very much. Xian Meimei snorted and went up to touch the icefire Luan's feathers. Little Honglan, come to me. I have delicious demon beast meat here. Just as her hand got close, the icefire Luan's feathers stood up. Like a red-eyed rooster, it stretched its neck and pecked at Xian Meimei's hand. This peck scared Xian Meimei. She wanted to retract her hand, but it was too late. Suddenly, a deep wound appeared on his hand, and blood kept flowing out. Chapter 446. Mn bird. Xian Meimei clenched her teeth and wanted to catch the icefire Luan. However, the icefire Luan was smart enough to dodge her. Meimei, that's enough. Why did you provoke little Honglan for no reason? Yuan Bupo felt a headache coming on. He nodded apologetically at Yun Sheng and pulled Xian Meimei to the side to bandage her wounds. Seeing that the evil woman had left, the icefire Luan landed on Yun Sheng's shoulder again. The group left the Grand Emperor City quickly. In a dark corner above the city gate of the Grand Emperor City, Madame Bai watched the dozens of Chongming birds leave. Her eyes were as venomous as a poisonous snake's. She said darkly, "Don't think that I can let this go just because you killed my son. I don't believe that you will be able to reach the Immortal Residence Nation alive." Behind Madame Bai, a servant who looked like a summoner said softly, "Madam, everything has been done according to your instructions." We have sent the news to the Tang Yuan nation. I believe that the second prince should have received the news by now. Yun Sheng and the rest rode the Chongming birds to the west. The immortal residence was an otherworldly place. It was Yun Sheng's first time coming to such a remote place. She heard from Yuan Bupo that they had to pass through the Tang Yuan nation to reach the immortal residence. Yuan Bupo, how much do you know about the sorcerers in Tang Yuan? Yun Sheng was a sorcerer. She had heard that Tang Yuan had the most sorcerers in the mainland. Even the headquarters of the Dharma Temple was located in Tang Yuan. Yun Sheng decided that if she had enough time, she would stay for a while after passing by Tang Yuan. Or, after finding the Water of Life, she would go to the Dharma Temple to pay Xia Wanshu a visit. After all, she didn't know how to use the Water of Life. I don't know much. It was all my father who told me. There are indeed many sorcerers in Tang Yuan nation and many of them are very powerful. There are also many sorcerer families in the nation. We have to be careful not to offend them. I'm afraid we'll have to be more careful when we head to the immortal residence this time. We'll have to pass through the Tang Abyss in order to reach the immortal residence. While passing through the Tang Abyss, we'll have to draw the symbol of the Grand Emperor city on every Chongming bird. Yuan Bupo was a little embarrassed when he heard Yun Sheng's question. The rule of Grand Emperor city was that one could not leave the city without permission before reaching adulthood. Therefore, Yuan Bupo did not have many chances to leave the city. Most of the major cities in the Tang Yuan kingdom had implemented a flight ban. If the flying beasts of other kingdoms wanted to pass through, they had to show specific signs. The Grand Emperor city had a close relationship with the Tang Yuan kingdom. Therefore, whenever the citizens of the Grand Emperor city passed by the Tang Yuan kingdom, they would draw special magical markings on their flying magical beasts. What will happen if we don't draw the magic symbol? It was the first time Yun Sheng had heard of such a prohibition. When she was in Ju state and later Qin, she seemed to have never heard of such a special rule. The consequences are serious. Any sorcerer in the Tang Yuan kingdom can attack a flying magical beast without a symbol if they see it. The loot after killing it belongs to the sorcerer. Yuan Bupo even gave an example when he said this. According to Yuan Wuxu, there was once a warrior from another kingdom who still did as he pleased even after knowing the rule of the Tang Yuan kingdom. He passed by the capital of the Tang Yuan kingdom. Guess what happened? That warrior, who had the abilities of a martial arts grandmaster, was hit by hundreds of magic spells in an instant. In the end, he fell from the sky together with his magical beast. Even the bones of his family members have not been found yet. Yuan Bupo's fearless personality could not help but reveal a taboo expression at this moment. The number of sorcerers in the Tang Yuan kingdom was much more than the number of warriors in Ju state and later Qin. Moreover, sorcerers were good at long-range attacks. They could attack anyone who hid in any corner. The process of being hit by hundreds of sorcerers' magic spells could only be described as tragic. Oh, then we have to be careful. Let's not delay any longer. Let's draw a symbol on our mounts first so that we don't become the target of other sorcerers' magic spells. Yun Sheng's scalp went numb when she heard that. There were only a few dozen of them. If they were attacked by a group of sorcerers, there would be nothing left of them. Yuan Bupo smiled and ordered a few of them to draw a magic formation. Yun Sheng asked a few more questions, and Yuan Bupo patiently told Yun Sheng everything he knew about the Tang Yuan kingdom. Although Yuan Bupo did not have much experience in leaving the city, he had read a lot of books since he was young and knew a lot about music theory. Yun Sheng even took the opportunity to ask some tricks about the Di Hong song, and he answered all of them. The two of them seemed to be getting along well. Xian Mai listened to the laughter that came from time to time and looked at Yuan Bupo's blushing face. She could not get a word in. Brother Bupo had never spoken to her like this before. What right did he have to treat Yun Sheng differently? Along the way, even a blind person could see that he had good intentions towards Yun Sheng. Xian Mai walked to the side angrily, thinking of ways to make things difficult for Yun Sheng. However, with Yuan Bupo around, she did not have a chance to do anything. After a while, the magic formation was drawn. The group set off again, preparing to go to the immortal residence after passing through the Tang Yuan kingdom. In the Tang Yuan kingdom, an urgent secret letter was sent to the second prince, Li Shao. Xian Wuji is dead. What a useless piece of trash. Li Shao opened the letter and was shocked. The letter was written by Madame Bai. In the letter, she told him about the failure of the plan and Xian Wuji's death. This time, Li Shao thought that he was well prepared. He did not expect that it would be a complete failure in the end. In the end, Xian Wuji was too useless. Although Li Shao was the second prince of the Tang Yuan kingdom, he had been intelligent since he was young. Even among the Wuji 5 annulus, he was known for his intelligence. He was good at scheming and was shrewd. He said that he was working with Xian Wuji, but in reality, he was secretly controlling Xian Wuji. He thought that Xian Wuji, as the young governor of the Grand Emperor city, would at least be a little scheming. He did not expect him to be a useless idiot. His plot against the residents of Yun had failed, and Tian Kezi and Yun Bo had also failed in their competition. Later on, the Dark Crown Prince of Qin had also broken off his cooperation with him. This had caused Li Shao, who had originally planned to take advantage of this opportunity to invade the Great Zhou Empire, to suffer a loss. He felt that things were not going well for him recently. Since the beginning of the Purple Gold Mine, Li Shao had always thought that his plan was flawless and that no one would be able to disrupt it. Who would have thought that during this period of time, several matters had been inexplicably sabotaged by others? The whereabouts of that batch of purple gold ore was still unknown, causing Li Shao to suffer several losses. This time, it was the same with the amniotic fluid of the magical beasts. The biggest reason for this failure was a female doctor named Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng of Zhou State. This person must be eliminated. Chapter 447. Li Shao had also heard of Yun Sheng a long time ago. Before the martial sage competition, Li Shao had not heard of this female physician at all. Only after that did he find out that her background was not simple. Other than being Yun Bo's granddaughter, she had many other identities. She was a hunter, a magician, and a doctor. It was said that when she was in Zhou State, she had defeated the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. What was even more commendable was that this girl named Yun Sheng was also an outstanding potion master. When she was in the Royal Magic Academy, she had already created a high-grade potion and was praised by the Moon Goddess. This time, a large part of the reason why Yun Bo was able to escape danger was because of this female doctor. What made Li Shao surprised was that in Madame Bai's letter, he saw the name Yun Sheng again. Yuan Bupo did not tell Yun Sheng the whole truth about Tang Yuan Kingdom. The current situation in Tang Yuan Kingdom could be said to be turbulent. As the Crown Prince, Li Cheng, and the second prince, Li Shao had been scheming against each other. The second prince, Li Shao, was famous and thought that he was the best candidate to inherit the throne. He was very dissatisfied with Crown Prince Li Cheng. His mother was Emperor Tang Yuan's favorite concubine. For many years, Li Shao had been suppressing Crown Prince Li Cheng. However, in name, Li Cheng's mother was born in a prestigious family. With the support of her family, she had been protecting the Crown Prince's throne. The brothers had been fighting openly and secretly without stopping. Hongdi City was adjacent to Tang Yuan Kingdom. It was inevitable that they would be related to Tang Yuan. The Xian clan led by Xian Wuji was on good terms with Li Shao. On the other hand, the Yuan clan was on good terms with Crown Prince Li Cheng. That was why Madame Bai was secretly communicating with Li Shao. Her son was dead and she could not bear to see others live well. Whether it was Xian Maimai, Yuan Bupo, or Yun Sheng, she wanted to kill all of them with a borrowed knife. Both sides were on good terms with different forces. However, this was the internal affairs of Hongdi City. That was why Yuan Bupo did not say much. What a good move of borrowing someone else's knife to kill. However, this person really can't be left alive. A genius of Zhou State with such talent will only be one more scourge if he's left alive. He must be dealt with as soon as possible. A flame appeared in Li Shao's hand, and Xin was immediately burned to ashes. Second Prince, we've already ascertained the flight path of Hongdi City. Tonight, they will pass by the outskirts of Biantang, the soldiers reported to Li Shao. Send 50 mags who are good at attacking and lay in ambush in the suburbs. If they see any suspicious flying team, intercept them and kill them, Li Shao ordered coldly. Yun Sheng, Yuan Bu Po and the others entered Tang Yuan. Around nightfall, the Chongming bird flew in the sky. In the distance, they could see the capital of Tang Yuan, Biantong. In the suburbs, a group of mags in black magic robes were lurking. These people were all Li Shao's subordinates. The prince has ordered us to attack immediately if we see anyone from Grand Emperor City. The magicians had been guarding this place for 2 days. Just as they were getting impatient, a flock of colorful Chongming birds appeared in the sky. It's Hongdi City's Chongming birds. Begin the operation. At this moment, Yun Sheng and the others had not noticed the abnormality on the ground a few hundred meters below them. We'll enter Tang Yuan's capital tomorrow. We'll rest nearby for a night. After we pass the capital, we'll reach the immortal residence in 7 or 8 days. Yuan Bu Po commanded the team in an orderly manner. No one would have thought that they would be ambushed when they had the sign of Hongdi City. In an instant, countless magic spells were launched into the sky. *T. There's an ambush. When Yuan Bu Po noticed it, an extremely cold wind blade had already chopped off the head of a warrior beside him. Yuan Bu Po leaped into the air. His first reaction was to protect Yun Sheng. However, there were too many magic spells. More than 50 mags and all kinds of magic weapons were aimed at the sky. It was as if fireworks had been set off. Although the warriors from Hongdi City were all skilled, not many of them had reached the level of Martial Marquis. When the Chongming bird was hit, it panicked and threw the people on its back off. Some of them did not even have time to react before they fell to their deaths. Some of them were hit by the magic spells in the air and were torn into pieces. It was a horrifying sight. In an instant, screams could be heard. Blood rained down like rain. Yun Sheng, Yuan Bu Po could not find any trace of Yun Sheng. His eyes were bloodshot. The Chongming bird that he was riding on shrieked in agony. It was hit by a thunder magic spell. Brother Bu Po, save me, Xiao Hong Lan. The icefire Luan flew up from Yuan Bu Po's back. A blue and a purple glow was emitted from its tiny body. Its body enlarged and turned into a beautiful red and blue feather Luan. The Luan was a unique magic beast. It was immune to normal magic attacks. Yuan Bu Po grabbed the Luan and pulled Xian Maimai, who was in a panic, up. Brother Bu Po, let's go down. Xian Maimai took the opportunity to hug Yuan Bu Po's waist and snuggled up to him. On the other side, there was a sudden ambush. Countless magic spells were launched at Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng had never been attacked by so many magic spells in one go. No matter how fast she reacted, she was caught off guard. No. She could only hear Yuan Bu Po's screams of agony. Yun Sheng could only feel that the Chongming bird that she was riding on was torn into pieces by the magic spells. In the next moment, she felt her body falling. A golden figure appeared in front of Yun Sheng. Maimai, let go of me. I want to find Yun Sheng. Yuan Bu Po lost track of Yun Sheng. His heart was burning. Let her fall to her death. What's so good about that bitch? Xian Maimai was jealous when she saw how agitated he was. She won't die. If you say another word, I'll throw you down. Yuan Bu Po heard the word die and felt his heart being pierced. Looking at the magic attacks on the ground, his heart suddenly turned cold. There was only one person who dared to attack them directly on Tang Yuan's territory. Tang Yuan's Li Shao. Li Shao, if anything happens to Yun Sheng this time, I, Yuan Bu Po, will not let you off. The wind howled as the magic spells were launched one after another. When Yun Sheng fell from the Chongming bird, numerous magic spells surrounded her. It was difficult for Yun Sheng to perform the body fusion technique in mid-air. Just as she was hesitating, Tycoon Gold appeared. Tycoon Gold did a beautiful somersault and blocked the magic spells with its body. Tycoon Gold was refined with hellfire. Weapons and magic spells were almost useless against it. Tycoon Gold protected Yun Sheng in its arms. It slid down from the sky nimbly and landed on the ground. After Tycoon Gold was trained by Yi Beiming, It would appear to protect Yun Sheng immediately whenever she was in danger. Yun Sheng quickly reached a safe place under its protection. Chapter 448. However, due to the urgency of the situation, Yun Sheng could not inform Yuan Bupo in time. She looked up and saw that the troops from Grand Emperor City had been attacked by magic. Yuan Bupo had flown to a safe altitude under the cover of Little Red and Blue. However, he looked very anxious as he looked around. It was obvious that he was looking for Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng did not make a sound. She was worried that she would alert the group of sorcerers on the ground. Those sorcerers were quite powerful. They were indeed from the Magic Kingdom, Tang Yuan. When Yun Sheng landed, she had already noticed that the sorcerers had a variety of attacks. There were fire and wind elemental magic attacks, and there were also lightning elemental attacks. Those people were very vicious. Their first attack was mid-level magic. It was obvious that they wanted to kill them. When did she make such an enemy in the Tang Yuan kingdom? Yun Sheng thought about it. She did not move around much in the mainland. The only one who could be considered as her enemy was the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, Tang Yuan. Yun Sheng recalled something and took out a waste token. Could it be Li Xiao from Tang Yuan who had a grudge with her because of the purple gold mine? The amniotic fluid from the magical beasts seemed to have come from the Tang Yuan kingdom. Xian Wuji was dead, Li Xiao's conspiracy was exposed, and they could not find the purple gold mine. Someone must have told Li Xiao about the purple gold mine. HMPH, Li Xiao. I haven't settled the score with you and you came knocking on my door. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being rude. Yun Sheng looked coldly at the sorcerers who were lying in ambush in front of her. Previously, Yi Beiming became the Oriole and killed more than 100 sorcerers from Li Xiao's smelting factory. It seemed that the lesson from Li Xiao was not enough. Should she return the favor and teach him a lesson? The sneak attack in the sky was almost done. Yun Sheng and Tyrant Jin approached the sorcerers quietly. Compared to Yi Beiming who killed 50 sorcerers in one go, what she did was considered merciful, right? Millimeter, she was too merciful. A fierce light flashed in Yun Sheng's eyes. She quietly used Earthmeld and approached the group of magicians. Are they all dead? Dozens of Tang Yuan's mags looked at the sky, which had returned to calmness. The people of Grand Emperor City are only SOSO, unable to withstand a single blow. This time, the second prince must be very happy, a magician said proudly, being able to wipe out the enemy so cleanly. After confirming that there were no survivors at the scene, Tang Yuan's sorcerers relaxed. Some of the greedy sorcerers even took the valuables from the corpses or cut open the bellies of the Chongming birds to dig out the soul stones and magical beast meat. The people of Grand Emperor City were not to be offended. The second prince had said that they must clean up the scene as if nothing had happened. The magicians released fire magic to burn the corpses left on the ground, destroying all traces of the corpses. A sorcerer was cutting open Chongming bird's chest and digging out a soul stone. The Chongming bird was a demonic beast unique to the Grand Emperor City, and the price of its soul stones on the market was quite good. That sorcerer was digging with all his might when someone behind him asked. Speaking of which, the route that the people of Grand Emperor City took this time was so secretive, how did they get discovered? The sorcerer did not even turn his head. These people were unlucky to have offended Madame Bai of Grand Emperor City. She told us the entire route. Not only did His Majesty the Second Prince prepare a group of people, he also planted people on the other two routes that they had to take. They escaped this time, but they won't be able to escape next time. Oh! His Majesty the Second Prince. Li Xiao. The indifferent voice behind him made the sorcerer stop what he was doing. He turned his head vigilantly, but it was too late. On the ground, a fireball engulfed his body in an instant. Yun Sheng and Tycoon Jin stood in the night. The second prince Li Xiao and Madame Bai? Yun Sheng said lazily, Tycoon Jin, kill the rest of them. Remember, pay them back in their own coin. Yuan Bupo could not find Yun Sheng's whereabouts, and he could not fight against dozens of sorcerers alone. Helpless, he could only take Xian Maimai and hide first. Around daybreak, in the outskirts of Bientang, When the morning light fell, the hillside was still green, and round dew rolled down from the leaves. Tycoon Jin was agile, and he had already cleaned up all 50 sorcerers. Yun Sheng kept the treasures in her hands without hesitation. Looks like we have to enter the capital of Grand Tang and find Yuan Bupo and Xian Maimai first. Yun Sheng originally planned to go to the immortal residence directly, but with Li Xiao's interference, her plans were all messed up. Yun Sheng and Tycoon Jin, who was disguised as a sorcerer, rushed towards Biantang. As soon as the two of them left, Yuan Bupo brought Xian Maimai and rushed over from another direction. Yuan Bupo's eyes were a little dark. He searched the hillside and did not find Yun Sheng's corpse. While he was relieved, his heart was in suspense, because he realized that the corpses of his brothers in Grand Empress City were all gone. It was as if this place was cleaned up overnight. Or could it be that Yun Sheng had already? Yuan Bupo did not dare to think further. Xian Maimai watched from the side and said, "Brother Bupo, don't look anymore. We haven't eaten anything since last night. Why don't we enter Biantang and send the news back to Grand Emperor City?" Yuan Bupo thought that maybe he could get some information in Biantang City. In Biantang City, the second Prince Li Xiao just got up, and one of his concubines was helping him undress. Did the people from last night come back? If the route provided by Madame Bai was not wrong, or if the people from Grand Emperor City followed the original route, they should have been wiped out by now. Those who got in the way of Tang Yuan and Li Xiao's plan could forget about living in this world. Second Prince, they haven't come back yet. I'm afraid they're still cleaning up the scene, Li Xiao's personal guard reported. If they come back, immediately order them to come and greet me. Li Xiao was very confident in his group of sorcerers. Li Xiao waited until noon, but his group of sorcerers still did not come back. Li Xiao was a little uneasy. What? Not a single person came back. A trace of gloom streaked across Li Xiao's elegant face. There was no news from the 50 sorcerers since last night. Second Prince, I've already sent people to check the area, but they didn't find any traces. The guard's face was not looking good. Who knew that when they arrived at the outskirts, they could not find a single person. Not to mention the sorcerers, they could not even find a corner of those people's clothes. This happened in the outskirts of Biantang City. It was too strange. Chapter 449. The sorcerers sent by the second prince, Li Xiao, were all gone. It was as if the 50 sorcerers were like dew in the morning, evaporating and disappearing upon contact with the light. Even the people from the Grand Emperor City did not find a single one. After the second prince's guards investigated carefully, they could only find some traces of magic being used. However, they were only traces of magic being used by the sorcerers in the residence. There were no other clues. Could it be that the sorcerers in the second prince's residence had an internal strife and killed each other? Li Xiao and his guard captain naturally did not think that the one who killed those sorcerers was Tyrant Jin. In order to confuse the public, Yun Sheng even specially let Tyrant Jin kill the sorcerers one by one according to their magic. Facing Tyrant Jin, who was invulnerable to fire and water and almost immune to magic, he killed them one by one. Li Xiao and the others naturally could not tell. Just thinking about this matter was very unimaginable. That was a large group of sorcerers. Moreover, to be safe, the second prince had chosen sorcerers who were at least at the level of Archmage. It was obviously impossible for so many people to go missing and betray him at the same time. After thinking about it, there could only be one result, which was that they had all been killed. Second prince, the guards at the city gate said that 2 people suspected to be from the Grand Emperor City entered Biantang early this morning. Could it be that the people from the Grand Emperor City did it? The guard captain saw the second prince's gloomy expression and did not say a word. He knew that his master was in a bad mood. 50 sorcerers, and they were not ordinary sorcerers. The last time, they lost more than 100, and this time, another 50. No matter how many aides the second prince had, sorcerers were not leeks after all. They could grow back after being cut. The people from the Grand Emperor City don't have that ability. Li Xiao pondered. He was also able to keep his composure. If it were someone like Yi Balian, he would have been angered half to death after encountering such a situation. Send someone to keep an eye on the city gate and see what kind of people have entered the city these few days. Especially people from other countries, especially warriors and sorcerers. Once they enter, immediately keep an eye on them. Li Shao pondered. Li Shao had the ability to remain calm and collected. From this, it could be seen that this person was not simple. This time, it was almost exactly the same as the previous time at the Purple Gold Mine. They did not know who the other party was, and they acted quickly and ruthlessly, not leaving a single person alive. No matter who it was, once he found out, he would definitely make the other party pay a corresponding price. The Imperial bodyguard captain obeyed and immediately went to carry out the order. Ju State, Wushuan Limitless Library. Yi Beiming was in a trance. Beiming, Master is talking to you. Can you hear me? Zhon Li glanced at his disciple with dissatisfaction. Master, I'm sorry. I was distracted for a moment. Yi Beiming rubbed his nose. He was a little absent-minded. Just now, he seemed to have felt a little uneasy, as if something was about to happen. Yi Beiming couldn't help but think of Yun Sheng. It had been a few days since Yun Sheng left Ju State. With Tycoon Jin's protection and her intelligence, she shouldn't be in any danger. You've been absent-minded for a while. Have you considered the matter of the mainland's elite camp? How could Zhon Li not be able to see that Yi Beiming was not in the right state? It seemed that after Yun Sheng left, he was always absent-minded. Master, your disciple wants to take it slow. Yi Beiming pushed away the letter in front of him. Beiming, 2 years ago, you said that you wanted to take it slow. Master agreed. But this time, Master can't indulge you anymore. The signs of your body turning into a beast are becoming more and more obvious. Zhon Li looked at Yi Beiming. This was the disciple he was most proud of. Yi Beiming's future was limitless. As his master, Zhon Li felt that there was nothing else he could pass on to Yi Beiming. Ju State's current situation was that Empress Qi favored Yi Beiming. Ever since Yi Beiming's Dharma soul was damaged and it was difficult for his cultivation to improve, Yi Beiming became even more hostile. He targeted Yi Beiming every day. Although Zhon Li vaguely knew that Yi Beiming wouldn't just sit and wait for death, he was still not strong enough to compete with the Ju State Emperor and the others. The best way was for him to temporarily leave Ju State. 2 years ago, Yi Beiming had been faced with a similar opportunity. But at that time, he had used his insufficient cultivation as an excuse to temporarily reject it. But ever since he met Yun Sheng again, especially with Yun Sheng's help, he had fused with the beast blood. The mysterious beast energy in his body had been catalyzed and accelerated, and his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Zhon Li had previously exchanged blows with him and discovered that his strength had actually surpassed his own. If it was under the influence of that mysterious beast energy, he would have probably reached the martial sage realm. This was a terrifying test. Yi Beiming was only 13 years old, but he had already reached the martial sage realm. If this news were to spread, it would probably force Empress Qi to retaliate fiercely. Empress Qi didn't mind, but would the Dharma temple behind the Ju State Emperor let the matter rest? Therefore, for now, Yi Beiming could only go there. Only there could he learn more battle skills that would make him stronger. That was the mainland's elite camp, the training ground for martial artists. As the curator of Wushuan Everlasting Hall, Zhon Li had a spot to recommend students directly to the mainland's elite camp. 2 years ago, he had originally wanted to leave this spot for Bu Zhouxiao, but Bu Zhouxiao had rejected it. He felt that Yi Beiming was more qualified than him to go to the mainland's elite camp to train. At that time, Yi Beiming had suddenly appeared in front of the world again, and he was indeed more suitable than Bu Zhouxiao. The mysterious power in Yi Beiming's body had become more and more active over the years. Zhon Li thought that only the instructors of the mainland's elite camp could suppress that mysterious power in his body. That power had already been in Yi Beiming's body when he was still a child. Zhon Li had seen it once by chance. Even though he was a martial arts grandmaster, he still felt that it was very terrifying. Every time it became active, Yi Beiming would even lose control, like a demonic beast. The mysterious power should be something that Yi Beiming was born with. Zhon Li sometimes wondered if it was related to Empress Li. It was just that Empress Li had been dead for many years. Even the old palace servants who served her were mostly dead. The mysterious power's origin was unknown, and Zhon Li had no ability to suppress it. Zhon Li was worried that if this continued, Yi Beiming would one day completely lose his humanity. Master, let me think about it again. How could Yi Beiming not know? Especially after he had killed Qian Kezi last time, he could feel that the power in his body was even more restless. He was also worried that this power would explode at any time and even hurt Yun Sheng. Therefore, even though Yi Beiming knew that Yun Sheng was going to the Grand Emperor city, he still resisted and did not accompany her. Did you make the deputy curator depressed again? Yi Beiming walked out of Zhon Li's training room. Bu Zhouxiao and Cheng Bai were waiting for him, one on the left and one on the right. Chapter 450. The opportunity to join the elite camp is hard to come by. In a few years, the Octoterra artifact will be unearthed. This time, there are rumors that the artifact is likely to be the halberd of the divine warrior. If you don't join the elite camp, I'm afraid we will clash with the warriors there. It was rare for Bu Zhouxiao to say so much at once. Any warrior would cherish the opportunity to train in the elite camp. If the other party wasn't Yi Beiming, Bu Zhouxiao would have already won this spot. In the past 2 years, the news of the Octoterra artifact that was about to be unearthed had spread like wildfire. Recently, there was reliable news that the artifact was most likely to be the halberd of the divine warrior. If it was really the halberd of the divine warrior that was once the #1 warrior of the continent, even the elite camp would fight for it. For martial artists, especially those young martial artists who had yet to mature, the Continental Martial Artist Elite Camp was undoubtedly a holy land. All of the geniuses hoped to have the opportunity to train there. Beiming, are you worried about the little miracle doctor? Don't worry, if you go to the elite camp, we will take care of her for you. But then again, the little miracle doctor is vicious and cunning. It's good enough that she doesn't scheme against others. Cheng Bai patted his chest. Yi Beiming rolled his eyes at Cheng Bai. His words didn't sound like a compliment at all. Since you're worried, let her go to the elite camp. I heard that after the Royal Magic Academy worked hard, they also managed to get a spot in the elite camp. Bu Zhouxiao was speaking the truth. The elite camp was divided into the elite camp for warriors and the elite camp for magicians. They recruited the best warriors and magicians on the continent respectively. But there was a requirement. The students of the elite camp had to be under 16 years old. If they were over 16 years old, no matter how powerful they were, they wouldn't have the right to enter the elite camp. This was because it was publicly acknowledged that only warriors and magicians under 16 years old could develop their potential to the greatest extent. After the establishment of the Royal Magic Academy, because the standard of the school was too average, they never had the chance to get a spot in the elite camp. But the Crown Prince, Yi Beilian, had always wanted to enter the elite camp. The royal family had spent a lot of effort and a lot of money to get a spot. Who would have known that Yi Beilian was a disappointment? His Dharma soul was damaged. Even if he had gotten in through the back door, after entering the elite camp, his Dharma soul would be tested and he would be exposed. The continent's elite camp definitely wouldn't accept students with problems with their law souls. As such, the Royal Magic Academy had no choice but to reselect suitable candidates to enter the continent's magic elite camp. Hongdi City will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. Right now, I have an even more important matter that requires your Majesty's help. At that moment, what Yuan Bupo was most concerned about was not who had plotted against them. Instead, he was more worried about Yun Sheng. Yuan Bupo shuddered in fear when he recalled how the demonic beasts that were attacked by the magicians had died without a complete corpse last night. He was most afraid of hearing about Yun Sheng's death. After last night, Yuan Bupo suddenly realized that Yun Sheng had unknowingly occupied such an important place in his heart. His feelings for her had already been deeply rooted. It was only then that Yuan Bupo understood why his eldest sister was so loyal to Yun Tsunglang. Xian Maimai saw Yuan Bupo's nervousness and it was even more sarcastic. She wished that Yun Sheng was already dead. It would be best if she died in an extremely tragic manner. Although she did not know who had plotted against them, Xian Maimai wanted to thank that person. Although Xian Maimai was wearing a veil, her eyes were clear like water and her body was very graceful. She was obviously a beauty that could topple cities. Her angry expression at the side was even more eye-catching. When Crown Prince Li Cheng saw her feminine appearance, he had a different kind of charm. A hint of adoration appeared in the Crown Prince's eyes. "Brother Yuan, Miss Xian, when you first came to Tang Yuan, my mother specially set up a banquet in the palace to entertain the two of you." When Crown Prince Li Cheng was 14 years old, he had already married his wife. The husband and wife were very loving and respectful to each other. Unfortunately, the Crown Princess had a short life. When she was 10 months pregnant, she unfortunately met with a difficult labor when she was about to give birth. Both mother and child died. Crown Prince Li Cheng was a man of affection. Ever since the Crown Princess died, he had not married. However, as the Crown Prince, it would not be good if he did not have an heir. Minute who persuaded him many times before he was gradually persuaded. Crown Prince Li Cheng had not married all these years. When he saw Xian Maimai today, he saw that she was beautiful and was the daughter of the Grand Emperor City's governor. Her background was very compatible with his. He could not help but admire her. He wanted to use this banquet to let his mother take a look. If she was suitable, he was prepared to marry Xian Maimai. Yuan Bupo and Xian Maimai naturally did not know about Crown Prince Li Cheng's thoughts. The two of them were currently living under someone else's roof. Moreover, they had to entrust the Crown Prince to find someone. Seeing the Crown Prince's great hospitality, the two of them could not refuse and agreed. Unexpectedly, the news that the Crown Prince had just invited an important guest and that Minute who would set up a banquet in the palace to entertain the important guest from Grand Emperor City quickly reached the second Prince Li Xiao's ears. Who came from Grand Emperor City this time? Li Xiao knew that the Yuan family in Grand Emperor City had always been on good terms with the Crown Prince. In Madame Bai's letter, she only mentioned the female sorcerer from Ju State. As for who came from Grand Emperor City, she did not mention it in detail. Second Prince, the Crown Prince's secret agent said that it was the daughter of the Grand Emperor City's governor and the leader of the Yuan family, Yuan Bupo. Li Xiao could not help but be shocked when he heard the guard captain's words. Damned Madame Bai. If Li Xiao knew that these two people were coming, he definitely would not have acted rashly. Yuan Bupo and Xian Maimai were both leaders of the younger generation. If anything happened to either of them, the Grand Emperor City's governor would be furious and would definitely not let it go. It was also because he was momentarily muddle-headed that he almost messed up the important matter. Li Xiao understood that with Shen Wuji's death, Madame Bai had lost her value. The real power of Grand Emperor City would either fall into the hands of Xian Maimai and her future husband, or it would fall into the hands of the most outstanding person of the Yuan generation, Yuan Bupo. Fortunately, these two people were fine. Now that both of them were in Tang Yuan, he had to win them over. It was rumored that Xian Maimai was young and beautiful. Li Cheng had lost his crown princess for many years. If he wanted to remarry, Xian Maimai would definitely be the most suitable candidate. How could he allow Li Cheng to get what he wanted? Thinking of Li Cheng's ugly appearance, Li Xiao was disdainful. As long as he appeared, Li Cheng would be unremarkable. As for Xian Maimai, she would be in his bag. Li Xiao immediately ordered people to inquire about the banquet in the palace today. Empress Minute set up a banquet. In the evening, Yuan Bupo and Xian Maimai entered the Tangyuan Palace together under the Crown Prince's escort. Thank you for all the tips and tickets. I've returned home after my business trip. Although I have a slight cold, seeing everyone's support warms my heart. Chapter 452. Tangyuan was located on the southeast side of the mainland. The climate was humid and the flowers were abundant. The Tangyuan Palace was surrounded by colorful flowers. There were many demonic beasts and rare birds. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Queen Minute knew what was on her son's mind. Along the way into the palace, there were lanterns floating in the corridor. Coupled with the unique illumination magic, it looked especially special at night. Brother Bupo, this place is much bigger than Grand Emperor City. Xian Maimai felt good being surrounded by a group of palace maids. Grand Emperor City was as rich as a country. It had been accumulating wealth for many years. However, it was still a city away from the world. The area of the city was about the same size as Bientang. Although the products it had were unique, it could not be compared to Tangyuan. Therefore, Xian Maimai was dazzled when she entered the palace this time. Yuan Bupo was still worried about Yun Sheng's safety. Although Crown Prince Li Cheng said that he would search for Yun Sheng's whereabouts in the country, he was still absent-minded. He did not listen to Xian Maimai's words at all. He only nodded casually in a perfunctory manner. Xian Maimai's joy disappeared when she saw his indifferent expression. She was furious. She tore an unknown flower by the roadside and threw it on the ground. Crown Prince Li Cheng smiled gently when he heard that. He said flatteringly, "Miss Xian, if you like, you can come to Tangyuan to play in the future. You can even stay in the palace." Xian Maimai's expression changed when she saw Li Cheng's friendly expression and thought about the meaning behind his words. She looked at Li Cheng's appearance. He had a narrow forehead, a wide nose and a short body. There was a hint of adoration in his eyes when he looked at her. A sense of disgust rose from the bottom of her heart. A person like this wanted to pursue her? Xian Maimai scoffed. Although her face was injured, she always thought that her face could be healed as long as she found the water of life. Li Cheng invited her to the palace because he wanted to please her. A toad wanting to eat a swan's meat. What wishful thinking. She said coldly, "Thank you for your kindness, Crown Prince. However, I'm used to being with Brother Bupo everywhere. Or should I say that you want to invite both of us to the palace as guests?" In other words, it was obvious that he had a good impression of Yuan Bupo. Crown Prince Li Cheng was stunned when he heard that. He then looked at Yuan Bupo. Yuan Bupo did not seem to hear their conversation. His handsome face was tense as he looked at a magic formation not far away. He was lost. No one knew what he was thinking. Looking at the distance between him and Xian Maimai, it seemed like they were intentionally keeping a distance from each other. It seemed like the two of them had no intentions. Yuan Bupo had been inquiring about the whereabouts of a lady from the Great Zhou dynasty called Yun Sheng. His expression was very nervous at that time. It was obvious that he was interested in that lady. As the crown prince, Li Cheng was honest and considerate, but he was no fool. He knew that if he could get the help of the Shenyuan and Shenyuan clans, his chances of ascending the throne in the future would greatly increase. He had to find a way to find the lady named Yunsheng. That way, he could cut off Xian Meimei's admiration for Yuan Bupo and please Yuan Bupo at the same time. A palace appeared in front of them. The palace was a typical southern building. It had undulating eaves and was richly ornamented. Crown Prince Li Cheng saw a group of people coming as soon as he got close to the Morning Dew Palace. The leader was the second prince, Li Shao. Crown Prince Li Cheng's expression changed when he saw that. The banquet was supposed to be a private one. Li Cheng did not want Li Shao to know about it. Although he and Li Shao were brothers, they were worlds apart in terms of appearance and ability. He wanted to please Xian Maimai and take the opportunity to propose marriage. However, if Li Shao was there, even a blind man would know who to choose. Brother, what a coincidence. I'm here to greet Empress Minute. Who are these two? Li Shao looked elegant as usual. He was wearing a dark purple sorcerer's robe. The sorcerer's scepter was at his waist and he had a jade crown on his forehead. His features were picturesque. He looked up and saw that behind Li Cheng, there was a tall young man and a slim young girl following closely behind. Li Shao saw Yuan Bupo's face clearly. He could not help but praise him in his heart. He did not expect there to be such an outstanding person in Grand Emperor City. Li Shao and Xian Wuji had known each other for a long time. However, Xian Wuji was a mediocre person. When he saw Yuan Bupo today, he realized he was much more powerful than Xian Wuji. He looked at Xian Maimai. Although she was wearing a veil, he could tell she was a beauty just by looking at her temperament. Greeting. It's already the moon. What kind of greeting was this for an hour? Li Cheng was furious. Xian Maimai, who was next to him, could not help but take a few more glances when she heard it was Tang Yuan's second prince. With one look, Xian Maimai couldn't help but reveal a stunned expression. She always thought Yuan Bupo was the best-looking man in the world. She did not expect Tang Yuan's second prince to be so handsome. In fact, Li Xiao and Yuan Bupo had two different temperaments. Li Xiao was handsome with a hint of aristocratic elegance. If one did not know him well, they would think he was a gentleman. Yuan Bupo was a young man. He was beautiful from head to toe. His appearance was similar to a woman's, but he did not give off a feminine vibe. When the two of them stood together, they were like two bright stars in the sky. Their brilliance was irreconcilable. Li Cheng was furious. However, as the saying goes, a slap does not hit a smiling person. Li Xiao was famous for being a smiling fox. Li Cheng could only smile and say, "Second brother, you're so considerate." These two are important guests from Grand Emperor City. It's a coincidence today that mother is hosting a family banquet in the palace to entertain the two guests. I saw that imperial concubine Su was not feeling well. I thought you were attending to her at her bedside, so I did not inform you. Imperial brother is really thoughtful. Mufei's health is no longer in danger. I haven't paid my respects for many days. Coincidentally, someone sent over several bolts of high-quality smoke cloud silk today. I thought of Mufei and entered the palace. Li Xiao's gaze seemed to linger on Xian Meimei's body. If that's the case, follow me into the palace. Li Cheng had no choice but to enter the palace with the second prince. When Minute who saw the second prince, a trace of unnoticeable displeasure flashed across his face. Li Xiao and his mother had been pampered and domineering in the palace all these years. Li Xiao even used his mother's weak body as an excuse to skip the formalities of greeting. He could have done it at any other time, but he chose to do it tonight. The group of people had their own thoughts as they took their seats. However, the palace banquet became turbulent because of Li Xiao's sudden participation. An unknown danger was approaching quietly. That was how Snowsong got its name. I didn't think there was such a zither in this world. Crown Prince, play a song. I want to see if it can create snow all over the sky like in the legends. Xian Maimai was a woman. Women were the most superstitious when it came to hearsay and legends that were like myths. It was only the end of September. It would be strange if snow suddenly fell. When Li Cheng heard this, he secretly cursed. This snow song was a newly acquired zither. His original intention was to show off in front of Xian Maimai. Who knew that he would end up making a fool of himself? It was still unknown whether Snow Song could create snow all over the sky. In any case, the Crown Prince had played it 3 or 4 times. There was nothing special about it. With his zither skills, he might not even be able to play a snowflake, let alone create snow in June. However, if he could not play it, he would be ruining the beauty's heart. Then, his efforts to please Xian Maimai would be in vain. Li Xiao saw the Crown Prince's troubled expression. To put it bluntly, his elder brother was an idiot. Royal brother, then you should have a good song. Don't ruin Miss Xian's good intentions. Li Xiao's eyes were filled with ridicule. Li Cheng clenched his teeth in hatred. Empress Minute also had a helpless expression. Yuan Bupo saw the two's open and covert struggle. He shook his head in his heart. It was a good zither, a good scenery, and good wine. It was a pity that it was ruined by these people who did not know how to enjoy themselves. Yuan Bupo saw the Crown Prince's attempt to please him. He was not interested in these fights between the royal family. However, when he thought about how Li Xiao might be the mastermind behind the attack, he was furious. If the Crown Prince doesn't mind, I'm willing to play the zither with you. What do you think? Yuan Bupo's suggestion made the crown prince sigh in relief. Chapter 454. Xian Maimai was overjoyed too. Brother Bupo, I haven't heard you play the flute for a long time. Every person in Dihong City would follow the rules of Dihong City from the moment they were born to when they turned 1 year old. However, it was different from the boundless continent. The children in the Grand Emperor City were grabbing musical instruments. Yuan Bupo grabbed the flute with one hand. Hence, he used the flute to practice the Dihong song all these years. As for Xian Maimai, she chose the guqin. It was also because of the musical instrument that Xian Maimai had always claimed that she and Yuan Bupo were destined to be married. It was said that the first person in Dihong City was the city lord and his wife. One of them was good at the flute while the other was good at the guqin. It was said that the last 3 movements of the Dihong song also used the flute and the guqin to achieve the greatest effect. Hence, Xian Maimai naturally thought that she and Yuan Bupo were destined to be together. Yuan Bupo was not interested in this. When they were in Dihong City, Yuan Bupo almost never played the flute in front of her. She chased after him and asked him a few times. She still remembered Yuan Bupo's words very clearly. I only play the flute for 2 people. One is my confidant, the other is my lover. In other words, Xian Maimai was neither of them. At that time, Xian Maimai was furious. She did not know if Yuan Bupo had too much to drink, but he took the initiative to say that he wanted to play the flute. Xian Maimai was overjoyed. She wanted to see what level Yuan Bupo's flute music had reached. Thank you, Brother Yuan. Crown Prince Li Cheng invited Yuan Bupo to play the flute together. The 2 of them chose a song that was popular in the mainland, Goddess of Luo. The song Goddess of Luo came from the Immortal Residence. It was said that a folk musician passed by the Immortal Residence nation and met an elf princess by chance beside the Immortal Residence's border river, Luo River. The princess happened to be playing with her maid by the river. The musician remembered the princess's appearance. He looked at her from afar. She was like a hibiscus in the water. She was as beautiful as the moon. Her laughter was crisp and clear, like the sound of a falling jade pearl breaking. The musician immediately played a song praising the beauty of the elven princess. Because they had met by the Luo River, this song that was used to describe the beauty of a woman was named Goddess Luo. Crown Prince Li Cheng had an ulterior motive for choosing this song. He wanted to use music to describe people and praise Xian Maimai. One of them played the zither while the other played the flute. Under the moonlight, one could only hear the sound of the zither and the flute. Crown Prince Li Cheng's zither skills were indeed extraordinary. It was no wonder that he had been immersed in the zither for more than 10 years. Coupled with the unique timbre of the snow song, there was a unique charm when he played it. Needless to say, Yuan Bupo's flute music was even better. He had added a part of the Dihong song's rhythm into his flute music. Not only was it beautiful, but it was also faintly unique. In the Morning Dew Palace, everyone was immersed in the beautiful sound of the flute and zither. At this moment, the Goddess Luo song had reached its climax. It happened to be the moment when the beauty of the elven princess was vividly described. The 2 people's zither and flute music kept dancing. Li Cheng only felt that his hands were not listening to him anymore. Yuan Bupo frowned slightly. Li Cheng's zither skills were not too far off from Xian Maimai's, but it was still not right. The harmony of the zither and flute was about a realm. Just like the harmony of the zither and the flute, it was also a realm. This realm was not related to the zither skills, it was related to the person. The original intention of playing the Goddess Luo song was to go along with Crown Prince Li Cheng. However, towards the end, he seemed to be attracted by the scene in the Goddess Luo song. He could not help but see the scene of a beauty playing in the water. Yuan Bupo could not help but recall the time when he first met Yun Sheng. He and Yun Sheng had only met a few times. When they first met, Yun Sheng was dressed like a handsome young man. Although she was a man, Yuan Bupo, who was also a man, could not help but take a few more glances at her. At that time, Yun Sheng was like the rising sun. She was handsome and unruly. She did not know how to play the zither, but she rashly competed with him. He still remembered that Yun Sheng's zither skills were terrible. She was much worse than Crown Prince Li Cheng. However, she was very bold. Or perhaps she was very smart. No matter how he sped up the flute music or changed the tune, she would be able to catch up. It felt as though he had found a soulmate. At that time, the zither and flute battle skills ended in a draw. The second time they met was in the Earth's core smelting cave. When Yuan Bupo first saw her, her clothes were untidy and her face was dirty. However, even under such circumstances, her thin shoulders, slim waist, and jade-like skin still caught Yuan Bupo's attention. When she merged with the fire of elves, the lady who seemed to have been reborn from the fire. Her hair was like clouds, her eyes were charming, and her cheeks were like peach blossoms. Yuan Bupo almost used all the words that could be used to praise a lady, but he still felt that it was not enough. Every man would form their own Luotian in their heart when they heard Luotian. She would either be enchanting, pure, or outstanding. At that moment, the Luotian in Yuan Bupo's heart was Yun Sheng. It was a pity that Yun Sheng's whereabouts were unknown. If she were to die, his heart suddenly felt empty, as though something was missing. Yuan Bupo's heart was throbbing in pain. He replaced the longing and insecurity in his heart with the flute music under his lips. Just like the river after a storm, all of his worries and longing poured out in an instant. The flute music changed abruptly and became faster. Crown Prince Li Cheng noticed that too. He could not help but become flustered. However, how many people in the world could catch up with Yuan Bupo's flute music? He played faster and faster, and Li Cheng's zither music could no longer catch up with Yuan Bupo's flute music. His forehead was sweating profusely as his fingers brushed across the surface of the zither. Vroom! The sound of the zither reverberated and one of the zither strings broke. Crown Prince Li Cheng's face instantly turned pale, but Yuan Bupo's flute music did not stop. Brother Bupo? Xian Meimei's face was also filled with grief. How could she not tell that Yuan Bupo's heart was already in a frenzy? Why was his heart in a mess? What was it? His face turned cold and Yuan Bupo could not help but lift his hand to touch his face. He saw that it had started snowing. The snow in September was not heavy. It was fluttering like reeds. It did not feel cold even when it landed on one's face. Crown Prince Li Cheng was shocked. It was really snowing. Was the snow really played by Snow Song? Li Xiao was also in disbelief. He looked around and saw a sorcerer quickly putting away his magic scepter. It seemed that the snow attracted by the zither and flute music. After a while, Yuan Bupo's body was covered in snow. His hair and the space between his eyebrows were also covered in snow. He looked as though his hair had turned white overnight. Xian Meimei looked at Yuan Bupo in a daze. She only felt her heart aching more and more. She had never seen her brother Bupo like that before. All of this was for Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng was tired of searching, so she casually walked into a lively restaurant in the city and ordered some wine and dishes. After eating a few mouthfuls, he suddenly heard a few guests at the neighboring table discussing. "Have you heard? Something big happened in the palace yesterday. Isn't that so?" The city was bustling early in the morning. It said that the palace was in a mess. Bientang was under the emperor's rule. In such a place, all kinds of news were spread quickly. Yun Sheng wasn't interested in the news, but when she heard that something happened in the palace, she couldn't help but listen. It said that someone from Dihong City came and the Empress held a banquet to welcome them. During the banquet, the Empress suddenly fainted and she hasn't woken up yet. Someone from Dihong City came? Could it be Yuan Bupo and the rest? Yun Sheng was not a fool. Yuan Bupo only briefly explained the distribution of power in Tang Yuan the other day. Judging from the situation of the purple gold mine last time, Tang Yuan and Dihong City's relationship wasn't simple. After she entered the city, she searched along the way but couldn't find Yuan Bupo. It turned out that Yuan Bupo had already entered the palace. However, He was in the palace and it was related to the poisoning of the Empress. It was probably very difficult to see Yuan Bupo. Waiter, Yun Sheng stopped a waiter. The guests are talking so enthusiastically. What happened? As she spoke, she took out a silver coin and threw it to the waiter. The waiter immediately beamed. Guest, they said that something happened in the palace. Empress Minute was poisoned last night and she's still unconscious. It's said that all the imperial physicians in the palace were called in. One night has passed and it's still unknown whether she's dead or alive. Oh! When Yun Sheng heard that, she suddenly had an idea. Waiter, I'm a physician and I know a little about poisons. If I want to recommend myself to enter the palace, what can I do? If she could sneak into the palace, she could reunite with Yuan Bupo and the rest. I'm afraid it's not easy. I heard that Imperial concubine Su's people have sealed the palace gate. She said that she wants to find the culprit. If you're not a famous physician in Tangyuan, I'm afraid it's not easy to get in. The waiter didn't dare to say more. Everyone in Bientang knew that the second prince's mother, Imperial concubine Su, and the crown prince's mother, Empress Minute, were like fire and water. One of them wanted the other to die as soon as possible. This time, the biggest suspect for Empress Min's poisoning was Imperial concubine Su. However, no one dared to say it out loud. Imperial concubine Su said that she wanted to strictly investigate the physicians. However, the imperial physicians were helpless. If they couldn't find a solution, Empress Minute wouldn't be able to survive the night. If Empress Minute died, the palace would belong to Imperial concubine Su and the second prince. Then it's difficult. I have a good antidote. Unfortunately, I can't enter the palace. Yun Sheng's face was full of regret. Young lady, are you telling the truth? A famous drinker suddenly rushed up from the side. He looked at Yun Sheng with a nervous expression, but his eyes were full of hope. Of course it's true. When I was in Ju State, I cured many poisons. My master is an imperial physician in Ju State. Yun Sheng's face was matter-of-fact. Good. Come with me to the palace. I'm Empress Min's younger brother. It was a coincidence. After Empress Minute was poisoned, the Minute family was worried sick. They tried to find all kinds of physicians. They even went to the temple. However, they still couldn't find the cause of Empress Min's poisoning. When Yun Sheng heard this, she knew that there was a chance. She remained calm and followed Minute, whose younger brother, all the way to the Tang Yuan Imperial Palace. Inside the palace, the crown prince looked anxious as he paced back and forth. He remembered that his mother had suddenly fainted last night. His heart burned with anger. Your Majesty, you should go and rest. You haven't drunk a drop of water since last night. You haven't closed your eyes. The old palace servant next to him was worried. As he spoke, Imperial concubine Su and the second prince, Li Shao, walked in with a magician behind them. Seeing Li Shao, Crown Prince Li Cheng rushed forward and grabbed Li Shao. Li Shao, were you the one who poisoned him? Chapter 456. Queen Min's health had always been good. She had never seemed ill. Yesterday, Li Shao had come to the banquet for no reason. Then, Queen Minute had suddenly collapsed. Looking at Queen Min's appearance, she had clearly been poisoned. However, all the imperial physicians in Tang Yuan had been mobilized. They had taken turns to look at her, but they could not find anything wrong with her. Li Shao swept Li Cheng's hand away. His tone was very displeased. Li Cheng, what nonsense are you talking about? Which pair of eyes of yours saw me poisoning? Furthermore, on that night, you and I, as well as the two esteemed guests from Grand Emperor City, were all present. We used the same wine and food, and no one was poisoned. Only the Empress was poisoned. What right do you have to say that I poisoned her? Li Shao was also surprised when he saw Empress Minute suddenly fall to the ground yesterday. Although Queen Minute was the Empress, she was not favored. Why would Li Shao kill her? Crown Prince, you can't speak nonsense. Murdering the Empress is a capital offense. Besides, why would Shao murder the Empress? Imperial concubine Su frowned. She and Queen Minute had been fighting for many years. They had been at each other's throats. She was not stupid. What good would it do to harm Queen Minute at this time? If I really wanted to harm the Empress, why would I invite a sorcerer from the temple? Li Shao smoothed his collar. His face was full of disdain. Only then did everyone notice that there was a well-dressed sorcerer behind Li Shao. That person was wearing a sorcerer's robe from the temple. Li Shao had a good relationship with the temple. After Queen Min's accident, he immediately ordered people to invite a sorcerer from the temple. Is this Xia Wanshu or Xia Siming? The crown prince could not find anything wrong with Li Shao. He could only glare at Li Shao angrily. The temple's elder Siming had stopped treating people a long time ago. In these years, when important members of the imperial family were injured, it was mostly Xia Wanshu who treated them. He could become the crown prince largely because of Queen Minute. However, in these years, Queen Min's maternal family had been weakened. Li Shao was also close to the temple. His sense of crisis had increased day by day. He didn't want to invite the people from the temple fair, but the imperial physicians were at their wits' end. They could only try using the light magic of the temple fair. Xia Siming has been in seclusion for the past few days, so he can't come. I'm his senior, are you Yi? The magician who spoke was young, about the same age as Crown Prince Li Cheng. He was handsome, humble, and courteous, just like how the Dharma temple treated people. Not Xia Siming. Li Cheng was slightly disappointed, but in any case, this person was Xia Wanshu's junior brother. It could be assumed that his attainments in light magic were also quite good. Li Cheng hurriedly dodged, letting Yu Yi walk in. The group of people waited outside. Inside the temple, Xia Wanshu quietly sat in front of the Heaven's Mandate mirror. Ever since he came back from Ju State, Elder Judge Ming, who had never lost his temper, actually scolded him fiercely. Xia Wanshu didn't explain too much in the face of criticism. This made Ji Yu even more furious, and he immediately punished Xia Wanshu by locking himself up for a month to reflect on his mistakes. Without permission, he was not allowed to leave the temple. This was why Xia Wanshu couldn't go when Minute who was in trouble. Xia Wanshu didn't express any resentment in the face of the punishment. He didn't say a word, and only meditated in front of the Heaven's Mandate mirror. Xia Wanshu also noticed the cracks on the Heaven's Mandate mirror. He couldn't help but sigh. Last time, he had to bear part of the responsibility for what happened to Yun Bo. He knew that his master would be furious, but he still did it. This was also the first time he disobeyed his master's wishes. He still remembered that day when his master flew into a rage and questioned him, "Why did you do it? Do you know that your actions this time have already revealed the secrets of the heavens? If the Heaven's Mandate mirror is damaged, the Dharma temple's luck will also be affected, and your own fortune will also be greatly reduced." He knew all of this. But he still did it. The reason he did it had nothing to do with the country, nor was it related to his fortune. He just wanted to help Yun Sheng. That was all. Young Master Ming. Yu Ji quietly appeared behind him. Seeing young Master Ming staring blankly at the Heaven's Mandate mirror, he couldn't help but sigh. After his young Master Ming returned, he looked like he had lost his soul. He said that he was in seclusion to reflect on his mistakes, but he looked like he was in a daze every day. Xia Wanshu didn't turn back. He knew what was going on. Tang Yuan Li Shao came to the Dharma temple in the morning, saying that Minute who was poisoned for no reason yesterday. Crown Prince Li Cheng suspected that he was the one who poisoned her, so he personally came to the Dharma temple to prove his innocence. Li Shao was a member of the continent's magic elite camp. His teacher was friends with Ji Yu, so Ji Yu couldn't ignore Li Shao. But considering that Xia Wanshu was still in seclusion to reflect on his mistakes, he sent Yu Yi over. Senior Yu Yi sent a message saying that Minute who was poisoned. He can't find the specific reason, and light magic can't cure her either. Yu Ji handed over a slip of paper. Yu Yi was a rare expert of light magic in the Dharma temple. If even he couldn't cure her, then the poison that Tang Yuan and Minute who were poisoned this time was no small matter. Xia Wanshu looked at the slip of paper and was slightly moved. What did Master say? Elder Judge of Fate said that Minute who will be fine this time. What he meant was that Xia Wanshu didn't have to step in and continue to reflect on his mistakes. It seemed that Master was really angry this time. Xia Wanshu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He took out the trigram and performed a divination. When the trigram appeared, it was just as Elder Judge of Fate, Ji Yu said. Minute whose trigram was a blessing in disguise. After the ominous light, there was a benefactor helping her. However, Xia Wanshu was secretly amazed. What kind of person could cure a patient that even senior brother Rui couldn't cure? Minute whose trigram was very special. It was a blessing in disguise. It seemed that after being poisoned this time, Minute Hu and Tang Yuan's luck would change greatly. Xia Wanshu looked thoughtfully at the heavenly fate mirror. Suddenly, a ray of auspicious light flashed. That ray of auspicious light flashed by at an extremely fast speed, but Xia Wanshu still caught it. Ever since the last time Yun Bo's ominous sign suddenly appeared, the heavenly fate mirror hadn't shown any signs for a long time. Xia Wanshu couldn't help but ponder. That ray of auspicious light seemed to have come from the west. Could it be that the benefactor who could turn Minute whose misfortune into a blessing also came from the west? The west of the mainland happened to be Ju State. Ju State. Could it be her? Xia Wanshu couldn't help but smile bitterly at his own thoughts. Why would Yun Sheng come to Tang Yuan? He was really crazy. He was still thinking about her at this time. The signs of auspicious light were unpredictable. Perhaps that ray of auspicious light was just an omen. Since Master didn't want him to step in, then he wouldn't step in. Tell Senior Ru Yi to stay in the palace for the time being. Minute who will have her benefactor to help her. Xia Wanshu waved his hand and entered a meditative state again. Chapter 457. Inside the palace, Ru Yi was waiting for Xia Wanshu's reply. Just now, he had checked Queen Min's body in front of everyone's expectations, but he didn't find anything strange. He had hoped that Junior Xia would be of some help, but he didn't expect Junior Xia to reply like this. Queen Minute has a benefactor in her life. Benefactor? Even Tang Yuan's imperial doctors couldn't do anything about Queen Min's illness. Where did this benefactor come from? Crown Prince Li Cheng was disheartened when he saw that the light magicians invited by the temple couldn't do anything. At this time, a servant came to report, Crown Prince, Assistant Minister Minute is outside the palace. He said he found a miracle doctor who can save the Empress. Imperial concubine Su and the others were stunned. Assistant Minister Minute was Queen Min's younger brother. When the Crown Prince heard this, it was as if he had seen a life-saving straw. He hurriedly said, "It's Uncle Minute. Let him in." "Wait, Your Majesty, the godly doctors near Bientang have all been invited to the Imperial Palace. Whether or not the doctor invited by Uncle Minute is a godly doctor is still unknown. You must not rashly let people outside the Imperial Palace in." Imperial concubine Su was only an imperial concubine, but she was deeply favored by Emperor Tang Yuan. When Queen Minute was still alive, the two of them were in charge of half of the harem. With Queen Min's illness, imperial concubine Su immediately seized all the power in the harem with lightning speed. Even if someone from outside the palace wanted to see her, they had to get her permission. Crown Prince Li Cheng's power was almost a mere figurehead. Crown Prince Li Cheng was annoyed and angry. He didn't care about etiquette and pointed at Imperial concubine Su. "Imperial concubine Su, my mother is terminally ill. You're stopping me from summoning a miracle doctor. What are you thinking? Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because Imperial Father favors you. I'll go see Imperial Father now and let him make the decision." The two of them pulled and pulled until they were in front of Emperor Tang Yuan. The people in Zhaolu Palace couldn't help but shake their heads when they saw such a disgraceful scene. Emperor Tang Yuan still cared about his many years of relationship with Queen Minute. After receiving the news, he ordered people to summon Assistant Minister Minute and the Miracle Doctor. "Assistant Minister Minute, Godly Dr. Yun, please enter the palace for an audience." Yun Sheng followed Assistant Minister Minute all the way to Morning Cloud's palace. Yuan Bupo was stunned when he heard the eunuch call out Miracle Dr. Yun's name. Xian Meimei's face also showed some surprise. Could it be that this so-called miracle doctor was actually Yun Sheng? A middle-aged man dressed in the uniform of an assistant minister entered. Behind him was a skinny doctor. In order to hide her identity, Yun Sheng even found a medicine box and carried it on her back. She looked no different from an ordinary doctor. Yuan Bu Po looked at the godly doctor's appearance and he was still a little confused. This was clearly not Yun Sheng. Just as he was suspecting, he suddenly noticed that the skinny female doctor quickly raised her head and glanced in his direction. Those eyes, even though she had disguised herself with the disguise spell, Yuan Bupo could still recognize Yun Sheng's lively eyes with a hint of cunning in them. Her jet-black eyes did not match her appearance at all. Yuan Bupo's strange behavior attracted the attention of the second prince, Li Shao. He could not help but take a few more glances at Yun Sheng. This woman looked really ordinary. If she were to be thrown on the streets, there would be a bunch of her. Moreover, this miracle doctor looked sickly. She looked like a bottle of medicine. Could she really save Queen Minute? You're the miracle doctor from Ju State. The great Tang Yuan Emperor also rushed over personally. When he saw his wife on the verge of death, he felt a little guilty. This woman had been with him for decades and raised a son for him. She might be ordinary, but she was still a good empress. I'm Yun Sheng. I was once taught by the former imperial physician of Ju State, Fan Ji. Yun Sheng's voice was clear. When she faced Emperor Tang Yuan, she did not show any fear. Li Shao could not help but look at her. He had heard of Yun Sheng's name before. He did not expect the miracle doctor who was in the limelight in Ju State to be this ordinary female doctor in front of him. This person was the godly doctor who had saved the great Ju's general, Yun Tsunglang. She was also the miracle doctor that Li Shao wanted to kill. Yun Sheng also lowered her head and glanced at the crowd from the corner of her eyes. Other than Yuan Bupo and Xian Meimei, there were two other unfamiliar men standing in the hall. One of them was handsome, but he looked cunning. It seemed like he was the rumored second prince of Tang Yuan. There was another person who looked ordinary. It should be the cowardly crown prince, Li Cheng. These days, the second prince seemed to be more talented than the crown prince. As for the last person, Yun Sheng could vaguely feel the fluctuation of light magic from him. People from the temple? Yun Sheng quickly recognized the identities of the people in the hall. If that's the case, quickly go forward and take a look at Empress Minute, Emperor Tang Yuan urged. Thinking about it, Yun Sheng must have used a special method to conceal her appearance. Yuan Bupo did not know why Yun Sheng did that, but since Yun Sheng did it, he would not expose her. As long as Yun Sheng was not dead, everything would be fine. Yuan Bupo felt that the sky had cleared up after the storm. The gloomy mood from a few days ago disappeared immediately. Yun Sheng received Emperor Tang Yuan's permission and was about to go forward to take a look. Stop right there. Just as Yun Sheng was about to go forward, the second prince, Li Shao, suddenly stepped forward and blocked Yun Sheng's path. He looked at Yun Sheng from head to toe. His tone was deliberately difficult. Royal father, this child has heard of the famous physicians of Grand Ju. But I heard that the royal physician Fan Ji of Grand Ju has long been banished from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. He even resorted to swindling for a living. Is that true? How dare he deceive me? Men, take this evil doctor away. Emperor Tang Yuan was furious. Wait, Yun Sheng was angered by Li Shao's words. To Yun Sheng, Dr. Fan was not only her benefactor when she first came to Yujing, but he was also her guide on the path of becoming a doctor. If it was not for Dr. Fan, Yun Sheng would never have thought of combining magic and medicine. She would never have thought of refining magic potions. The second prince insulted Dr. Fan, which was equivalent to insulting her. What else do you have to explain? Li Shao saw the change in Yun Sheng's expression and knew that she was indeed the miracle doctor Yun Sheng from Ju State. After Yun Sheng became famous in Ju State, Li Shao had ordered people to investigate. He discovered that this godly doctor had become famous overnight. His medical records were almost blank. As for her master, Fan Zhi, he was a former imperial physician who was expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Second Prince, I admit that my master was expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion for some reason. However, it's a fact that he's an imperial physician. When he was 25 years old, he was already the youngest imperial physician in Ju State. When he was 28 years old, he was expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The reason was that he wanted to pursue a higher level of medical knowledge and combine it with magic, Yun Sheng said crisply. She was not afraid of Li Shao's difficulties at all. Chapter 458. Is this doctor talking about Ju State's Dr. Fan Zhi? Yu Yi, who had been silent all this time, spoke up. He was a magician from the Temple of Magic and had a very honorable status. Even Emperor Tang Yuan had to be respectful to him. Oh, could it be that Lord Yu Yi has heard of this person's name before? Emperor Tang Yuan couldn't help but ask. I've met Dr. Fan once. Yu Yi was Xia Wanshu's senior. Before Xia Wanshu became an adult, he had always been by Elder Ji Yu's side. At that time, Fan Zhi was still in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Yu Yi had some impression of Fan Zhi. He remembered that he was a doctor with great medical skills and would occasionally have unique opinions. Unlike the Medicine Emperor Pavilion that blindly pursued ancient medical skills, Dr. Fan was a very flexible doctor in Yu Yi's opinion. Later on, he also heard that Dr. Fan left the Medicine Emperor Pavilion for some reason. However, his reputation in Ju State was still very good. In particular, he had joined a rapidly developing medical center in Ju State, the Little Enchanting. Emperor Tang Yuan also understood that magic and ancient medical skills were like fire and water. Yu Yi also glanced at Yunsheng and recalled what junior brother Xia had said earlier. Empress Minute had her own benefactor helping her. Could it be that Empress Min's benefactor was this female doctor from the Great Ju in front of them? Your Majesty, why don't you let this lady take a look? After all, magic and ancient medical skills are unable to immediately diagnose the Empress's illness. Perhaps Miss Yun, who is proficient in magic and ancient medical skills, will be able to see the reason. I won't hide it from your Majesty. When Yu Yi entered the palace, Junior Xia had already sent someone to deliver a message. He said that the Empress's benefactor will naturally come from the southwest. Yu Yi spoke up for Yun Sheng. Rather than saying that Yu Yi had confidence in Yun Sheng, it was more accurate to say that he had confidence in his junior brother Xia Wanshu. Xia Wanshu was born with heavenly eyes and his words were never wrong. Xia Wanshu's words were without a doubt irrefutable and would definitely happen. A benefactor from the southwest. Wasn't that Ju State? Even Xia Sai Ming from the Dharma Temple had said so. Second Prince Li Shao could only step aside gloomily. He didn't understand why Xia Sai Ming, who had always been neutral, would speak up for someone from Ju State this time. Did young Master Ming really say that? That benefactor must be Miracle Dr. Yun. There was a misunderstanding just now, please don't take it to heart. Divine Doctor, please come in and take a look. If you are able to cure the Empress' illness, I will definitely reward you handsomely. Emperor Tang Yuan said with an amiable expression. Your Majesty, if Yun Sheng is cured, please agree to Yun Sheng's 2 conditions. Don't worry, Yun Sheng's 2 conditions are not excessive, and they are definitely acceptable to your Majesty. Yun Sheng was not in a hurry to see the doctor. She actually dared to negotiate with Emperor Tang Yuan. The Morning Dew Palace was filled with astonishment. Xian Maimai sneered from the side, you don't know what's good for you. Do you really think that your medical skills are unparalleled? Accompanying the emperor was akin to accompanying a tiger. In the end, Emperor Tang Yuan killed Yun Sheng in a fit of anger. Emperor Tang Yuan was also somewhat angry. A mere commoner actually dared to negotiate with him. Imperial Father, please agree to Miracle Dr. Yun's 2 conditions. When Crown Prince Li Cheng heard that Yun Sheng was Empress Min's benefactor, he hurriedly stepped forward to plead. Emperor Tang Yuan suppressed the anger in his heart. What conditions? If I cure Empress Minute, Your Majesty will have to make me an imperial physician and prove to the world that I'm definitely not a swindler. After Yun Sheng finished speaking, she glanced sideways at second Prince Li Xiao. Yun Sheng was a woman. She had a small flaw that all women had, and that was that she liked to hold grudges. Moreover, now that she had offended the Imperial Medicine Pavilion, she probably wouldn't have a chance to take the physician examination. She couldn't continue to stay as a physician. She could take a shortcut and directly jump to become an imperial physician. When second Prince Li Xiao heard this, he also knew that Yun Sheng's words were directed at his previous accusation. He was unhappy, but he couldn't refute and could only sulk at the side. That's easy. If you can cure an illness that even my imperial physicians can't cure, then your medical skills will naturally be above the imperial physicians. How about this? If you can cure Empress Minute, then I will confer you the title of Imperial Physician of Tang Yuan. The Emperor of Tang Yuan was very decisive. A monarch never joked. When he said these words, even Yun Sheng felt a little flattered. At the side, Yu Yi was even more astonished. From a physician to an imperial physician, this directly skipped the ranks of roaming physicians, scattered physicians, and imperial physicians. This speed, in the entire continent, there wasn't a single physician who had this kind of speed. This female physician surnamed Yun was really too savage. Xian Maimai was also furious. She didn't expect that not only did Yun Sheng not offend the emperor, she was going to be made imperial physician of Tang Yuan. A 9-year-old imperial physician, this was really heaven-defying. On the other hand, Yuan Bupo's face was filled with worry. Although he heard from his brother-in-law that Yun Sheng's medical skills were unparalleled in the world, he had never seen it for himself. Empress Min's illness was very aggressive and there were no symptoms at all. If it was poisoning, at last night's banquet, he, Xian Maimai, and the rest were all present. Li Xiao didn't make any move to poison the food, so there was no chance. As for poisoning Empress Min's food alone, the chance was very slim. Because the imperial palace's dishes were all specially tasted by palace servants. Thank you, Your Majesty. Yun Sheng's face was indifferent. This commoner has another condition. If this commoner can cure Empress Minute, it proves that this commoner's medical skills are indeed extraordinary. However, Your Majesty Second Prince just said that this commoner's master is a liar. As the saying goes, if a crown prince breaks the law, he will be punished the same as a commoner. Second Prince needs to pour tea and apologize to this commoner. His Zhaolu Palace was dead silent. However, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air in their hearts. Other than Li Xiao and Empress Su, who were green with anger, everyone couldn't help but give Yun Sheng a thumbs up in their hearts. Too awesome. Li Xiao was the most favored prince. In the entire Tang Yuan, no one dared to speak to him like this. Impudent. You're just a commoner, how dare you ask my son to apologize to you? Empress Su's face was red. This precious son of hers, even she couldn't bear to let him pour tea. This lowly commoner actually made such a request. Oh. Yun Sheng dragged out the last syllable. Facing the furious imperial concubine Su, she only raised her eyebrows. Could it be that imperial concubine Su thinks that Empress Min's life is worth less than Second Prince's apology? Second Prince is really pampered. His cup of tea is actually more expensive than Empress Min's life. When Yuan Bupo and Yu Yi heard this, they broke out in cold sweat for Yun Sheng. She was too bold. This was simply playing with fire. Emperor Tang Yuan's face was also filled with anger. He also felt that Empress Su and Second Prince were making a mountain out of a molehill. Imperial Father, Empress Mother's life is in danger. Imperial Father, please reconsider. Crown Prince Li Cheng saw this and knelt down with the palace servants to plead for leniency. Second Prince Li Xiao gritted his teeth. In his heart, he understood that today he had been tricked by Yun Sheng. Helpless, he could only say hatefully, if you can cure Empress Minute, I will pour tea and apologize. But if you can't, don't blame me for asking you for your crimes. Chapter 459. Don't worry, Second Prince. This commoner will definitely not do as you wish. Yun Sheng smiled. Only then did she enter the bedchamber of Morning Dew Palace and check on Queen Minute. Time passed by, and the Morning Dew Palace was completely silent. Yun Sheng checked on Empress Min's body in Morning Dew Palace. She frowned and stood up to walk out. Crown Prince Li Cheng quickly walked forward and asked, "Dr. Yun, what illness does my mother have?" "Empress Minute doesn't have an illness." Yun Sheng looked around. "Then is she poisoned?" Crown Prince Li Cheng asked. "It's not poison either." Yun Sheng looked at Morning Dew Palace and frowned even more. Seeing her frown, Second Prince Li Cheng mocked, "It's neither an illness nor poison." "Yun Sheng, I'm afraid you didn't even see what illness Empress Minute had. You still don't admit that you're a swindler." "Who were the people who drank with the Empress last night?" "Including the palace maids and kitchen maids, they all came forward." Yun Sheng ignored Li Xiao. In fact, when she entered the palace, she had already roughly determined the cause of Empress Min's illness. After checking just now, she was even more certain of this point. But after seeing the decorations in Morning Dew Palace, she was a little uncertain. A group of palace maids and a few people who were at the banquet all came forward. Yuan Bupo and Xian Maimai were among them. Li Cheng and Li Xiao also came forward. Last night, something happened to Empress Minute and a group of people didn't remember to go back. They were all wearing yesterday's clothes. Yun Sheng first checked the palace maid's clothes and hands, but she didn't find anything strange. Even Yuan Bupo and Li Cheng didn't find anything wrong with them. After that, it was Second Prince Li Xiao. Li Xiao was humiliated by Yun Sheng and was furious. He glared at Yun Sheng. He was usually modest and polite, but towards Yun Sheng, it was very easy for her to arouse his anger. "Second Prince, please open your hands." Yun Sheng spoke in a businesslike tone and did not shy away from examining Li Xiao's hands. Li Xiao noticed that Yun Sheng's hands were very long and slender. When she stood next to him, a sweet fragrance wafted over. It was very different from the rouge and face powder commonly used by women in the palace. "Miss Xian, it's your turn." Yun Sheng had already checked most of the people, leaving only Xian Maimai behind. If she still couldn't confirm it, her earlier guess would be completely overturned. "Mph, the one surnamed Yun, don't pretend to be mysterious. Just admit that you can't see the illness." Xian Maimai was unwilling to let Yun Sheng examine her and pretended to leave. Unexpectedly, Yun Sheng suddenly grabbed her hand. "I found it, Miss Xian. The cause of the Empress illness is in you." "What? What nonsense are you talking about? Are you saying that I poisoned the Empress?" Xian Meimei's face instantly turned pale. She did not poison the Empress at all. She raised her hand and was about to slap Yun Sheng. "You damned bitch, you're framing me." Yun Sheng would not allow her to be so presumptuous. She grabbed Xian Meimei's hand. A hidden force was released from her body and it instantly hit Xian Meimei's arm. Xian Maimai only felt her arm go numb and she could not exert any strength. She was the daughter of the Grand Emperor City's city lord. Usually, people would treat her with respect. She had never been so wronged like today. She could not think straight and burst into tears. As she cried, she shouted, "Brother Bupo, His Majesty the Crown Prince, Second Prince, you have to help me. I didn't poison her, I didn't poison her. Xian Maimai poisoned her?" Yuan Bupo was also shocked. He quickly went forward and pulled Xian Maimai up. "Yun Sheng, is there a misunderstanding? Maimai has no enmity with Empress Minute. Why would she poison Empress Minute? Moreover, we were all present at that time. We did not see her poison her." Yun Sheng shrugged. "I only said that the cause of the illness was in her body. I did not say that she poisoned her." When Xian Maimai heard that, she immediately stopped crying. She glared angrily. "Yun Sheng, what do you mean by that?" Everyone at the side was also confused when they heard this. "His Majesty the Crown Prince, is Empress Minute allergic to pollen?" Yun Sheng did not answer directly. Instead, she suddenly asked the Crown Prince. As soon as she asked, Yun Sheng realized that she had said something wrong. Allergy was a word that no one in the boundless continent knew. The Crown Prince was indeed confused. However, when he smelled the flowers, he seemed to have thought of something. Mother does not like flowers. There are no flowers in her palace and the rouge and face powder that she uses on a daily basis. Empress Min's palace was different from the other concubines' palace. There were no flowers at all. They were all potted plants like pine and bamboo. Yunsheng also noticed this. That's because Empress Minute is allergic to pollen. If the crown prince does not know, the palace servants who serve Empress Minute closely will understand. Yunsheng indeed called an old female official who served Empress Minute. The latter also admitted that if Empress Minute came into contact with pollen, her face would easily swell and her entire body would itch. Therefore, Empress Minute hated flowers. People in the ancient times did not know that this was allergy. When Xian Maimai heard that, she suddenly thought of something. When I entered the palace, I plucked a flower. However, it was just an ordinary flower. How could it? At that time, she thought that she was jealous that Yuan Bupo called Yunsheng his sweetheart. Therefore, she tore a flower. The flower that you tore is not an ordinary flower. It's called serene epiphyllum. It's a flower with heavy pollen. Empress Minute must have held your hand and greeted you after seeing you. In the end, she accidentally came into contact with the pollen. In addition, the food that you drank that night contained allergic foods such as fresh fruits and peanuts. Empress Minute accidentally ate it and went into shock due to the allergic reaction. As Yunsheng spoke, a burst of cheers came from the palace. A few female officials who served Empress Minute ran out with a face full of surprise. She's awake. We followed Divine Physician Yun's instructions and collected fresh honey from the palace's imperial garden. After the Empress drank it, Her Majesty the Empress woke up. Crown Prince Li Cheng was overjoyed when he saw this. He quickly walked in. Emperor Tang Yuan also walked forward. Empress Minute had indeed woken up. When she saw the worried Crown Prince and Emperor Tang Yuan, she smiled weakly. This is too miraculous. Yunsheng, you were clearly not present. How did you know what happened last night? Also, you said that the allergic reaction and shock were cured by drinking honey. Yuan Bupo was speechless when he saw this. Because he was a physician, he used golden needles or bitter medicine to treat his patients. Who knew that Yunsheng did not use any of those? She only called them out and looked at their hands and smelled their clothes. Xian Meimei's face was pale as she clenched her fists. However, Empress Minute had fallen ill because of her. Although the responsibility for this matter was not on her, Brother Bupo and the Crown Prince's gaze when they looked at her just now carried a hint of blame. How would she know that old woman Empress Minute was allergic to some pollen? Chapter 460. How could a normal person not be able to smell pollen at all? Tang Yuan's imperial physicians were also amazed by Yunsheng's miraculous medical skills. They all gathered around and said that they wanted to discuss with Yunsheng and ask about the treatment of this illness. Yunsheng had a bitter smile on his face. How could she explain? She couldn't tell these doctors from the boundless world. The real cause of Minute whose illness was very simple. It was a coma caused by allergies. Fresh honey, especially the bees raised in the imperial garden, had pollen grains that could resist allergies in their honey. This was the real reason why Minute who woke up. She could only beat around the bush. When Li Xiao and Empress Su saw this, they were very bored. Just as they were about to sneak away, Yunsheng caught them with her sharp eyes. Your Majesty Second Prince, don't forget the agreement you made with this commoner earlier. Yunsheng was all smiles. Her eyes curved into two crescent moons as she smiled. Li Xiao could only stay reluctantly. After Minute who woke up, Yunsheng ordered the female palace servants to prepare some fresh dates. Yunsheng told Minute who that allergies were not completely incurable. Minute who could add some fresh honey and fresh dates into his daily diet. These foods could alleviate the symptoms of allergies and even slowly change Minute whose constitution. Minute who had been troubled by allergies for many years. But the imperial physicians had been helpless for many years. When she was young, she also fainted occasionally because of allergies, but it was not as serious as this time. Yunsheng smiled and suddenly said, Minute who, Do you know who planted the most pollen of the nether epiphyllum outside your morning dew palace? I heard that the nether epiphyllum is Empress Sue's favorite flower. Those flowers outside your door were planted by Empress Sue herself. On the sickbed, Minute whose gaze darkened slightly as he looked meaningfully at Yun Sheng. After Minute who took some medicine, the people waiting outside also entered the palace one by one to pay their respects. Second Prince, I've heard about your agreement with Miracle Dr. Yun. After Minute who woke up, Crown Prince Li Cheng told her about how Empress Su stopped the Minute family from entering the palace and insulted the godly doctor while she was unconscious. Along with the serene Sirius flower incident, Minute who hated Empress Su and the second prince to the core. Sister. Imperial concubine Su still wanted to plead for her son. She looked at Emperor Tang Yuan plaintively. Empress. The Emperor of Tang Yuan, who was standing at the side, received the signal from his favorite concubine and wanted to help. Earlier, he had only wanted to calm Yun Sheng down. After thinking about it, since he had already bestowed the title of National Master to her, and the second imperial prince had always been proud, it was indeed difficult for him to pour tea and apologize to her. Your Majesty, the most important thing for us in the imperial family is trust. Your Majesty's words are like gold and jade. If you go back on your words now, wouldn't you be ridiculed by the world? Empress Minute said sarcastically. Only now did Yun Sheng realize that although Empress Min's appearance was average, she was very smart. No wonder she could stand firmly in the harem for so many years without collapsing. In this aspect, Empress Minute was probably better than Empress Li of Ju State. Emperor Tang Yuan was speechless. After a while, he said in a low voice, "Come, serve the tea." Second Prince Li Shao's body couldn't help but stiffen. Ever since he was born, he had never been so humiliated in front of so many people like today. But since the Emperor of Tang Yuan had spoken, he couldn't say anything else. He could only take the tea against his will. Yun Sheng, on the other hand, sat comfortably at the side. The second prince, Li Shao, placed the tea in front of Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng didn't take it. She said coldly, "Second prince, you forgot something." The veins on Li Shao's temples throbbed. If looks could kill, Li Shao's entire body would have already been pierced with hundreds of holes. He said in a muffled voice, "Great National Master Yun, I apologize to your master." Second prince, you're too polite. Yun Sheng took the tea and sipped it comfortably. She was secretly pleased. Empress Min's matter came to an end. Yun Sheng was conferred the title of Emperor of Tang Yuan. Yu Yi also returned to the Dharma Temple with the news. The first thing Yu Yi did when he returned to the Dharma Temple was to inform Ji Yu of this matter. Ji Yu had already divined Empress Min's fortune. Empress Min's fortune was indeed ominous, but he didn't accurately predict that a noble would come from the southwest. He immediately ordered someone to call Xia Wanshu over. This was also the first time Ji Yu had summoned Xia Wanshu after his return. Yu Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Master was finally willing to forgive his junior brother. His junior brother was 10 years younger than him. When he first came to the Dharma Temple, he was only 3 or 4 years old. He had a delicate appearance and the seniors in the Dharma Temple all liked him. However, he had always been polite to others. Although Master was the harshest towards this disciple, Yu Yi knew that Master doted on his junior brother the most. In his memory, Master had never been angry for so long like today. It seemed that this time, he had to thank that female doctor from Ju State. Xia Wanshu leisurely arrived. When he saw Ji Yu, he calmly called out, "Master." Ji Yu only responded with an millimeter. Just like that, the master and disciple resolved the knot in their hearts. Yu Yi recounted the entire incident. Even Elder Sai Ming was stunned when he heard this. Although he was skilled in magic, because of his good relationship with Wen Dagua, he also had some knowledge of ancient medical techniques. That female doctor from Ju State's method was very bold. This was definitely not the style of the Medicine Emperor's pavilion. What's more, poisoning caused by allergies was unheard of in the continent. What did that female doctor look like? What surprised Yu Yi even more was Xia Wanshu. In his impression, His junior brother was rarely interested in people. Moreover, the other party was just a stranger. Very ordinary. Her skin was sallow and she looked very thin. If she didn't say anything, I would have thought that she was a patient. Yi was used to seeing handsome men and beautiful women in the Dharma temple. He really didn't like Yun Sheng's appearance. She wasn't Yun Sheng? Xie Wanshu's eyes dimmed. He didn't know what to say. What's her name? Is she from the Medicine Emperor's pavilion? Elder Sai Ming noticed Xie Wanshu's expression. His white eyebrows twitched as he asked casually. She said that she's the disciple of the imperial doctor from Ju State's Medicine Emperor's pavilion. Her name is Yun Sheng, Yi said. Xie Wanshu's expression didn't change. It's her, Wanshu. That doctor called Yun Sheng, is she the woman who created the Saint Grade pill and the moon god's tribute? Elder Sai Ming probed. Elder Sai Ming glanced at Xie Wanshu. He didn't find anything strange. Perhaps he was being paranoid. His disciple had always been indifferent. He definitely wouldn't fall in love with a woman. Chapter 461. Elder Sai Ming couldn't help but laugh at his own suspicions. What? You're saying that she's the legendary female magician? She's a dual cultivator of magic medicine and ancient medicine, the one who forced the Medicine Emperor Pavilion to retreat. Yi was surprised. He didn't expect that the sickly doctor who looked so ordinary was the female magician who was causing trouble for the temple these days. The mystery of the moon god's praise was still unknown to the temple. Even Yi and the other magicians were clueless. That's her. Speaking of which, Wanshu, you stayed in the little Enchanting for a while, but you didn't hear any news about the moon god's praise? Elder Sai Ming didn't give up. Earlier, when Dagua's subordinate had sent a letter saying that he should pay attention to Xie Wanshu. He said that Xie Wanshu got along well with the people in the little Enchanting. Elder Sai Ming, Gu, understood Xie Wanshu very well. This disciple of his, due to his background, treated people with gentleness, but only those who were close to him would know that under that layer of gentleness, there was indifference. He treated people with gentleness, neither happy nor sad, because he never put those people in his eyes. How could he get along with others to such an extent? Xie Wanshu said in his usual tone, "This disciple is useless, I didn't find any clues. If I knew that she was Yun Sheng, I would have." Sigh, it's too late to say it now. After Minute, whose illness was cured, the Tang Yuan Emperor was very happy and bestowed Yun Sheng with the title of Tang Yuan Imperial Hand. When Yi said this, Elder Sai Ming took a deep breath. You said that Yun Sheng was bestowed with the title of Tang Yuan Imperial Hand? This is ridiculous. How old is she this year? She's not more than 10 years old. How many years has she been practicing medicine? I'm afraid she hasn't even been practicing medicine for 3 years. How can she be called an imperial hand with such qualifications? If Elder Sai Ming's good friend, Wen Dagua, knew that a little girl enjoyed the same glory as him, he would be furious. Xie Wanshu secretly sighed in his heart. Master, do you know that the little girl you speak of has medical skills that can shock the entire continent? After Elder Sai Ming heard this news, he was not in the mood to talk anymore. Yun Sheng was a citizen of Ju State, but she was appointed as the national master of Tang Yuan. This news will soon spread in the mainland. At that time, the reputation of little Enchanting will rise. If she were to perform outstandingly in this area, or if she were to concoct a potion of a higher grade than the moon goddess's praise, the reputation of the temple would be suppressed. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion was a good example to learn from. When Dagua was not in the mood to say more and left with Yi. Yuji, you can leave as well, Xie Wanshu said in a low voice. Yuji nodded. The room regained its tranquility. Xie Wanshu's calm and emotionless face suddenly changed slightly. It was as if a crack had suddenly appeared in a glacier that had been frozen for thousands of years. It was also as if a bright sun had suddenly appeared in a cloudy sky. In that instant, Xie Wanshu had turned from a saint to a mortal. His expression became soft, with inexplicable feelings, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously rose. Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng, it really is you. You are also in Tang Yuan now. He took out a piece of paper from his sleeve. On the paper, the woman's beautiful handwriting scribbled a few lines. The secret of the moon goddess's praise was on this paper. Xia Wanshu knew that he should have burned this paper, so that no one else would know about the secret of the moon goddess's praise except for Yun Sheng and himself. However, he was reluctant to burn the only thing beside him that had traces of Yun Sheng. He sighed softly, spread out the paper again, and read it over and over again. The potion formed by the conflict of two opposite magic elements was refined under the high-grade moon goddess's praise. Two opposite magic elements. The world only said that Yun Sheng was a genius doctor, but who would have thought that her biggest secret was not her medical skills, but her secret was dark magic soul. Only those who possessed a dark magic soul could withstand the magical conflict caused by the conflicting magical elements of the opposite magical attributes. Yun Sheng's body contained a powerful dark magic soul. This secret was also the real reason why Xia Wanshu concealed the secret of the moon goddess's praise. He put the paper away again. Xia Wanshu could not help but envy the northern underworld prince of Ju state. Compared to that man who did not have the shackles of imperial power, although he was a priest of the Dharma temple and was known as one of the Wuji Five Walls, there was never a day where he could truly do things according to his heart. Even if he knew that Yun Sheng was in Tang Yuan, and he missed her day and night, he still could not get close to her. The only thing he could do was to protect her in his own way from the other side. Inside Tang Yuan's Morning Dew Palace. Miracle Dr. Yun, no, I should call you Great Master Yun now. Minute Hu and Crown Prince Li Cheng held a banquet to entertain Yun Sheng, Yuan Bupo, Shen Maimai, and the others. After Minute Hu found out the cause of the illness, she recovered very quickly. This time, Minute Hu escaped from death. She rejoiced and felt even more grateful to Yun Sheng. The Empress is too polite. The Empress is blessed by the heavens. Yun Sheng was only lucky to find out the cause of the illness. After Yun Sheng thought about it, she also felt that her luck was not bad. Who would have thought that Minute Hu's allergy would lead to bronchitis, which led to fainting and going into shock? If such a case did not happen to one of her good university friends, she was afraid that she would not have discovered it. Minute Hu had a good impression of Yun Sheng. When she was talking to Yun Sheng, she could not help but look at Yun Sheng. The more Minute Hu talked with this woman, the more she found that this woman was exceptionally intelligent. Minute Hu had spent her life in the palace and had seen countless people. She had previously thought that Yun Sheng was only good in medicine because of her ordinary appearance. However, after talking in detail, she found that this woman was very knowledgeable, bold, and meticulous. Her inadequacies in appearance could be ignored when compared to her intelligence and heart. Compared to the unruly Shen Maimai, wouldn't it be better if her son could marry such a woman as the crown prince consort? That day at the banquet, Minute Hu could see that Shen Maimai and second Prince Li Shao were chatting happily. This woman's temperament was unstable and she was easily confused by appearances. Crown Prince Li Cheng was docile and did not know how to be flexible. If he married Shen Maimai, he might not be able to gain any benefits in the future. However, Minute Hu felt that Yun Sheng was a good candidate. After asking around, Minute Hu found out that not only was Yun Sheng's medical skills good, but her family background was also very good. She was actually the granddaughter of Yun Bo, the famous martial saint of Ju state. Miss Yun, are you married yet? My son, Li Cheng, has a pure and honest personality and is a good match. Why don't? Minute Hu suddenly changed the topic. When she asked this, the hands of the people present at the banquet trembled. Chapter 462. Especially Yuan Bupo, the wineglass in his hand had been crushed into pieces. He did not even realize that he had spilled the wine all over his body. Yun Sheng was also very embarrassed. For a moment, what kind of show was this? Strange things happened every year. Were the empresses and crown princes stupid? Her name was Yun Sheng, not Tang Sanzang. Why was she so popular all of a sudden? She had even used a disguise spell to make herself look like a soybean sprout. How could someone like that be interested in her? She was a virgin girl, a virgin girl. At her age, she would be charged with kidnapping a young girl in modern times. However, looking at Crown Prince Li Cheng's expression, he was extremely dissatisfied. Yun Sheng mocked him secretly. Even if you are not willing, I am not willing. This young lady's fiancé is 1,000 times better than you. Fortunately, Yun Sheng had been with Yi Beiming for a long time. She had learned the trick of a sly fox, which was to counter every move. Thank you for your kindness, Empress. The Crown Prince is filial and humble. There must be many young ladies in Tang Yuan State who are willing to marry him. Moreover, Yun Sheng is already engaged. Her fiancé is Lord Beiming of Ju State. Yun Sheng looked shy. She thought to herself that it was very useful to have a fiancé as a shield during critical moments. After blocking the Dark Crown Prince and Tang Yuanmin, it worked every time. The engagement between Yun Sheng and Yi Beiming was not announced to the public. Therefore, not many people knew about it. Yuan Bupo felt a buzz in his head when he heard that. He could not even hear the sounds around him. There was only one sentence in his head. Thank you for your kindness, Empress. Yun Sheng is already engaged. Yun Sheng's fiancé is Lord Beiming of Ju State. Lord Beiming of Ju State. She was already engaged. Why had he never heard her mention it? Yuan Bupo felt a dull pain in his heart. Then, he thought of something. It was just a marriage arrangement. It didn't mean anything. Didn't Big Sister and Xian Wuji also have an engagement in the past? However, Big Sister and Yun Tsanglang fell in love with each other and ended up together. Although her eldest sister's appearance was completely ruined, her eldest brother-in-law's care for her was not affected in the slightest. He didn't care whether Yun Sheng was engaged or not. She was the daughter of an aristocratic family. She must have been forced into this marriage because of the imperial decree. It was rumored that the Crown Prince of Ju State was an idiot. That Lord Beiming must also be a good-for-nothing. How could he be compared to him, who was handsome and proficient in music? Yes, that must be it. Yun Sheng was forced. As long as I worked harder, she would fall in love with me. At that time, the engagement and the North Underworld King would be thrown to the back of my mind. At worst, I'll elope with her in the future. Yuan Bupo had already come up with a series of plans in his head. All that was left was the name of their child in the future. Minute, who was disappointed when he heard that. It was a pity that such a good girl was already engaged. However, Minute, who quickly composed himself. Yun Sheng pretended to lead the topic to women's beauty and maintenance. Minute, who was indeed interested. He threw away the idea of matching his son to a matchmaker. On one side, Yun Sheng and the Empress were chatting happily. On the other side, Yuan Bupo's mind was filled with thoughts of eloping. Crown Prince Li Cheng and Xian Maimai heaved a sigh of relief. Li Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. Naturally, it was because he didn't want to marry such an ordinary-looking girl as his crown princess. He still had fantasies about Xian Maimai. Xian Maimai, who had been a delicate guest earlier, was suddenly left out. She was originally very unhappy. However, when she heard that Minute, who was going to arrange a marriage for Crown Prince Li Cheng to Yun Sheng, she immediately perked up. However, Yun Sheng rejected him directly. That meant that she was engaged. If that was the case, Brother Bupo should give up, right? Xian Maimai couldn't help but look in Yuan Bupo's direction. However, he was staring at Yun Sheng with a strange look in his eyes. He didn't look like he was depressed or had given up at all. Xian Maimai was annoyed when she saw that. She was even more jealous of Yun Sheng. After the banquet, Crown Prince Li Cheng prepared a few carriages to send Yun Sheng and the others back. Many thanks to Great Imperial Master Yun. This Imperial Master medallion was entrusted to me by Imperial Father to bestow upon you. In the future, with this medallion, Great Imperial Master Yun can move unimpeded within the borders of Tang Yuan without any identity checks. Although Li Cheng was unwilling to marry Yun Sheng, he was still very grateful to her for saving his mother's life. Crown Prince, you don't have to be so formal. It's just a small matter. Crown Prince is kind and benevolent. Empress Minute is the mother of the country. Naturally, you are blessed. When I was in Jew state, I often heard Lord Baiming mention you. Yun Sheng smiled. She thought for a while and suddenly said softly, Crown Prince, if there's a chance, you can get closer to Jew state's Lord Baiming. Just say that I recommended you. Crown Prince Li Cheng was slightly stunned. However, he immediately understood. Yun Sheng's words meant that she wanted him to join forces with Jew state's Lord Baiming. However, Lord Baiming of Jew state was just a dethroned crown prince who had fallen out of favor, Li Cheng muttered in his heart. He thought that he should return to the palace and discuss with his mother before making a decision. Yun Sheng didn't say much. She acted as if she didn't say anything and got into the carriage. The carriage sent the three of them back to the inn. Yun Sheng said in her heart, Second Prince Li Shao, if I don't trick you to death, my name isn't Yun Sheng. After Crown Prince Li Cheng received Yun Sheng's reminder, he hurriedly returned to Morning Dew Palace. Queen Minute had just recovered from a serious illness. She drank some wine during the banquet, so she was a little dispirited. She was letting a palace maid massage her temples. When Li Cheng saw Queen Minute, he complained, Mother, why did you randomly matchmake me? I don't like that miracle Dr. Yun at all. Queen Minute raised her phoenix eyes and waved her hand, indicating for the palace maid behind her to leave. When only the mother and son were left in the palace, Queen Min's face was filled with anger. She reprimanded, Cheng you're really becoming more and more useless. How did I teach you? You can't just look at appearances. It's your loss if you can't marry miracle Dr. Yun. It's also our Tang Yuan's loss. If she wasn't good, why would Yuan Bupo keep nagging about her? Seeing that Queen Minute was angry, Li Cheng hurriedly went forward and massaged Queen Min's shoulders. He said carefully, Mother, I know my mistake. Ever since Yingyue's death, I haven't had any feelings for anyone. I've met that Shen Maimai before. I was indeed moved. That's why. Moved. Beauty is just a fleeting moment. No matter how beautiful a woman is, how many years can she be pampered? An emperor's wife is chosen based on virtue and not appearance. How do you think Yingyu died? She was killed by that bitch, Empress Su. Queen Min's expression was gloomy. It was poles apart from her benevolent appearance during the day. How could Queen Minute not know about the dirty things in Tang Yuan's harem? It wasn't just Tang Yuan. Every palace in the boundless continent was like this. Chapter 463. It was a pity that her mother's family had been weakened over the years. She was also getting older and couldn't keep the emperor's favor. When Yingyu was pregnant for 9 months, her body was always strong. If she gave birth to a child, he would be the first grandchild of the imperial family. Li Cheng's position as crown prince would be more stable. When Empress Su found out, she secretly killed Yingyu. When Crown Princess Yingyu was about to give birth, she lost a lot of blood. When the child was born, he had been suffocated for a long time. It was a full-term baby boy. Mother, why did you hide this from me? When Crown Prince Li Cheng heard this, he felt like the world was spinning. He had never thought that his crown princess and his son were killed by Empress Su and her son. Yingyu was his first wife. Their temperament was similar. The couple was deeply in love. If I didn't hide it from you, wouldn't you fight Empress Su? If you don't like Yunsheng's looks, you can take a concubine. With her medical skills, she can help you deal with Empress Su and her son. She can make your concubines give birth to children. Xian Maimai can't compare to her in this aspect alone. Beiming Wang of Ju State is so lucky, Minute who said enviously. Crown Prince Li Cheng was silent. He understood Minute whose meaning. This time, Minute whose poison suddenly flared up. If it wasn't for a coincidence, his life would be even more difficult after his mother died. After knowing the truth, Crown Prince Li Cheng hated Li Shao and her son even more. But after his mother was poisoned and Empress Su and her son covered the sky with one hand, Crown Prince Li Cheng grew some brains. He suddenly remembered the person Yun Sheng told him about. "Mother, I have another thing to report. Just now, Dr. Yun mentioned Beiming Wang to me. She seems to want to make me cooperate with Beiming Wang," Li Cheng said in a low voice. When Queen Minute heard this, she was a little surprised at first, but she quickly understood. "The North Nether King's fiancé saved my life. According to etiquette, you should prepare a gift as a reward. Beiming Wang, Tang Yuan, Crown Prince Li Cheng sent a gift." In Wushuan Wuji Pavilion, Yi Beiming suddenly received a gift. Tang Yuan and Li Cheng? Yi Beiming was a little unfamiliar with this name. He was a nosy prince. He didn't have a position in the court and didn't have much contact with the envoys and princes of other countries. However, some time ago, he robbed Tang Yuan's second prince Li Shao of a batch of purple gold ore. However, Yi Beiming believed that Li Shao would never know that it was him, a nameless former crown prince of Ju State, who had stolen his ore. This prince does not have any dealings with the Tang Yuan kingdom, so there's no need for a gift of thanks. "Throw it out," Yi Beiming coldly replied. But the other party said that this gift is related to His Highness's little fiancé, Divine Dr. Yun. About the little wild cat. Yi Beiming raised his beautiful eyebrows. The little wild cat actually ran to Tang Yuan? Shouldn't she be in the Grand Emperor city? After ordering someone to bring in the gift of thanks, Yi Beiming received a gift letter from Tang Yuan's crown prince Li Cheng. The letter was personally written by Li Cheng. It said that when Yun Sheng was passing by Tang Yuan, she was ambushed. She happened to pass by Tang Yuan and accidentally saved Tang Yuan Minute. After that, she was conferred the title of Great Tang's national champion. When he saw the word ambushed, Yi Beiming's expression changed slightly. Crown Prince Li Cheng's words all pointed to Tang Yuan's Li Shao as the culprit. Li Shao again. Yi Beiming's thin lips slightly pursed. A biting cold murderous aura flitted across his eyebrows. When he saw the two words Yun Sheng, the murderous aura suddenly disappeared. Like the sun after the rain, a somewhat evil smile appeared on his foxy face. The little wild cat admitted that he was her fiancé in front of outsiders. Although he couldn't help but be a shield, Yi Beiming was incomparably carefree. This little wild cat was indeed someone who didn't know her place. It seemed that Li Shao had angered her. This fellow was very lazy and pushed her to his side. Forget it. Someone who offended his little fiancé would not be able to escape the word death sooner or later. The Tang Yuan kingdom was the headquarters of the Dharma temple. Sooner or later, he would devour Tang Yuan. It was just that the time was not right yet. Since the little wild cat had spoken, no matter how cowardly and incompetent Crown Prince Li Cheng was, he could still make him a puppet emperor of Tang Yuan. A wave of dark magic elements fluctuated in Yi Beiming's hand. Li Cheng's letter immediately turned into a wisp of green smoke. Li Cheng sent news of Yun Sheng. This made Yi Beiming happy, but also somewhat angry. After not seeing the little wild cat for a while, she ran all over the continent. At the end of the letter, Crown Prince Li Cheng mentioned that Yun Sheng and the others were going to the Immortal Residence. Immortal Residence country? They were probably looking for the water of life. Yi Beiming immediately understood. Something must have happened in the Grand Emperor city for Yun Sheng to change her mind and go to the Immortal Residence. This was too much. Yi Beiming couldn't help but feel a little angry. The Immortal Residence country was not a place where people could go as they pleased. Although the elves were a peace-loving race, they were also the race that hated humans the most on the continent. But with the little wild cat's intelligence and the rich gold, it shouldn't be a big problem. It was just that the Immortal Residence country was thousands of miles away from Ju State. Even with flying magical beasts, it would still take 2 months to go back and forth. If there was any delay in the middle, they might miss the selection of the continent's magic elite camp. He hadn't had time to inform Yun Sheng about this matter. Because of their Dharma souls, he and Yun Sheng had an inexplicable bond. Their thoughts could resonate. However, there was a prerequisite. The prerequisite was that both of them were willing. Last time in the Earth's core smelted cave, After accidentally catching a glimpse of the little wild cat's disheveled appearance, her face was full of disdain. She strongly expressed that if Yi Beiming dared to rashly resonate with her thoughts next time, she wouldn't spare him. Although he liked the little wild cat's appearance when she occasionally lost her cool and bared her fangs and brandished her claws, Yi Beiming was still unwilling to be angry with Yun Sheng. It seemed that he could only wait until she contacted him before telling her this news. After leaving Bian Tang, Yun Sheng removed the disguise spell on her body. This time, Li Xiao's sneak attack was a blessing in disguise. With the title of Tang Yuan's great national master, Yun Sheng's following journey through Tang Yuan's border was very smooth. Crown Prince Li Cheng had even arranged for the best inns for them to stay in. This made Yun Sheng feel like she wasn't going to the immortal residence to seek the water of life, but was going on a vacation. Moreover, she could clearly feel that there was something wrong with Yuan Bupo and Xian Maimai. Xian Meimei's resentment towards her had increased significantly. She looked as if she had killed her entire family. Yuan Bupo was the exact opposite. His eagerness towards her had obviously exceeded the level of a friend. For example, during mealtimes, he would continuously put food on her plate. Early in the morning, he would play the flute outside her room. "Yun Sheng, what do you want to hear? I'll play it for you." Yuan Bupo blinked his eyes. She closed her door and recorded the 4th to 6th chapters of the Di Hong song. Yun Sheng always had an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the Di Hong song. It was as if the Di Hong song and the techniques passed down in the Yang family naturally complemented each other. With Yun Sheng's current cultivation, the Jade Marrow technique had broken through to the 4th level with the techniques passed down in her family. Shenong's eyes were at the 3rd level, and Trillium Hand was at the 3rd level. Her summoner level was at the wizard level, and her sorcerer level was at the master level. This kind of progress was very shocking. Part of it was due to luck, but a bigger part of it was due to Yun Sheng's hard work and the accumulation of her 2 lifetimes. Recently, she realized that the speed of her progress in teaching the techniques at home had slowed down. Thinking about it, she had reached the bottleneck. If she continued like this, she was afraid that she would not be able to reach the supreme level of Shenong's ancestor, the Yang Emperor. Ever since she learned how to meditate, she rarely slept. Whenever she had time, she would go to the Royal Magic Academy and use the magic tower to comprehend magic. However, she realized that there were too many masters in the Wuji continent. If she did not have the summoning magic beasts and tycoon gold, she would have died a few times. Therefore, ever since she realized that the Di Hong song might be able to help her achieve a breakthrough in her techniques, Yun Sheng had never slacked off. Legend had it that the Di Hong song had 9 chapters. Today, Yuan Bupo played the 4th, 5th, and 6th chapters of the Di Hong song. As for the 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters, it was said that only people from the Di Hong city who entered the legendary Empress tomb had the chance to obtain them. Even the governor of the Di Hong city, Shen Sitian, only obtained 2 chapters of the Di Hong song by luck when he entered the Empress tomb. Yun Sheng looked through the chapters that she obtained and realized that she was not familiar with music theory. She could not ask Yuan Bupo directly. After thinking about it, she could only come up with one method, which was to ask Yi Beiming. Yi Beiming was cultivating when he suddenly felt something strange in his heart. Then, he smiled. The resonance between Yun Sheng and Yi Beiming's Dharma soul was quite interesting. In a sense, it was like a modern internet communication tool. Their thoughts were like the internet, and their resonance was like QQ online. Usually, if Yun Sheng was not willing, even if Yi Beiming contacted her 1,000,000 times, she would just go into hiding. However, the moment Yun Sheng contacted Yi Beiming, he would immediately jump up and down. Yi Beiming was dissatisfied with this situation, but he could not do anything to Yun Sheng. Just like what Cheng Bai said, Yun Sheng was his destined nemesis. "Little wild cat, you've thought of me." Yi Beiming, I obtained the last 3 chapters of the Di Hong song, but there are some problems with the music. Can you help me take a look? Yun Sheng had not seen Yi Beiming for a long time. In her mind, Yi Beiming's devilish face appeared. After not seeing him for a long time, Yi Beiming seemed to have become, well, even better looking. Yeah, Yunsheng noticed that this fox had changed. He was wearing a training suit, and there was sweat on his forehead. The Yi Beiming that Yunsheng knew was a nosy prince. The first time they met, he was sleeping on a tree. She had never seen him cultivating. Every time they met, he would hug and hug her. If he could sit, he would never stand. If he could lie down, he would never sit. But today, he was actually cultivating. His sweat soaked his clothes and made them stick to his body, outlining his firm but not too exaggerated muscles. His waist was narrow, his legs were long, and his buttocks were perky. He gave off an aura that made people want to commit a crime. Yunsheng only felt her face turn red. She almost stopped resonating with Yi Beiming's thoughts. Perhaps Yi Beiming noticed Yunsheng's strange behavior, so he lowered his voice and chuckled. There was a hint of pride in his voice. Suddenly, he thought of something and frowned. The last few chapters of the Di Hong song should be a secret. How did you get your hands on it? Don't tell me that you're also a master thief while you're a master doctor. What nonsense are you talking about? Yuan Bupo bragged to me. I memorized it all in one go. In front of Yi Beiming, Yunsheng did not need to hide anything. Due to the spiritual resonance, Yunsheng always had a feeling that Yi Beiming could see through her at any time. Yuan Bupo, from the Yuan family of Grand Emperor City. Yuan Bupo? A man. Yi Beiming lowered his voice. Thank you everyone for your tips. I can't thank you individually, but I've received your support. Fuzi is not a full-time writer, so I can't explode with a lot of words. I can only promise that I'll try my best to maintain the 10,000 words per chapter. If the subscriptions can go up and I can get the website's recommendation, my little universe will explode. I'll rest for 3 days during National Day, and I'll work hard to write. Thank you to every reader who supported me, voted, and left a message. You're all the motivation for me to become a full-time writer. Chapter 465. In Yunsheng's ears, it was like someone was blowing air into her ear. Yunsheng remembered that day in the medicinal hall when Yi Beiming bit her earlobe. Her heart suddenly jumped. His second aunt's younger brother, Yunsheng, blurted out. However, she thought angrily inside, why did she have to explain it to Night Fox? Little wild cat, you seem to have forgotten something. You're now a married woman. In the future, you're not allowed to mention any other men in front of me. Otherwise, the next time we meet, I'll properly teach you your duty as a fiancé, Yi Beiming said domineeringly. Night Fox, are you jealous? Yunsheng suddenly understood. She was jealous. I'm jealous, Yi Beiming said matter-of-factly. Our engagement is just a cover-up, Yunsheng said helplessly. This kid actually took it seriously. She would not discuss marriage with a youth who was younger than her by n years. Since the engagement is set, then you're mine. There's one more thing that I have to tell you. Regardless of whether or not you can find the water of life, you have to hurry back to Ju State in 2 months. Yi Beiming did not want to push Yunsheng too far. He had known Yunsheng for many years. He also knew that the little wild cat was different from any other woman he knew. She valued friendship, but she was most afraid of restrictions. For some reason, she was especially slow when it came to the feelings of men and women. Whether it was Yuan Bupo, Dugu Xiu, or Xia Wanshu from the Temple of Dharma whom he hated the most, they all had feelings for her. However, she could ignore them. If she wasn't naturally slow, then she was naturally a little fool when it came to feelings. However, this was also good. Once he kidnapped her into the elite camp of the mainland and cut her off from everyone else, he would have plenty of ways to train the little fool. This was also why Yi Beiming did not hesitate to use a marriage contract to tie Yunsheng down. 2 months. We haven't reached the immortal keeper nation yet, so we're still in a bit of a rush. Yunsheng wasn't too sure. In 2 months, the selection for the Continental Magic Elite Camp will begin. This time, you must obtain this spot. Yunsheng went to the Wushuan Limitless Martial Arts School in the name of an exchange student. At that time, The exchange period agreed upon by the martial arts school and the academy was 4 years, which was limited to the next divine artifact search. However, during this period of time, Yunsheng's student status remained in the Royal Magic Academy. This also meant that she had the qualifications to participate in the Royal Magic Academy's selection this time. However, the prerequisite was that Yunsheng had to rush back before the selection in 2 months. Elite Mage Camp. I've thought about joining the elite camp, but I'm not interested in competing with the people from the Royal Magic Academy. Yunsheng still had some recollection of this term. She remembered that when she was in Luoxia City, the female magician called Blue was a member of the Magic Elite Camp of the continent. It was said that the Elite Mage Camp was the headquarters of the geniuses. Geniuses from all over the continent would gather in the Elite Mage Camp to receive the continent's best guidance in magic and battle techniques. However, Yunsheng did not intend to join the Elite Mage Camp. She had never liked to interact with these so-called geniuses. Moreover, since it was the Royal Magic Academy's internal selection, needless to say, Chen Lian would definitely participate. She did not like interacting with Chen Lian. Yunsheng did not realize that she was already a monstrous genius. You must join. Yi Beiming's tone was non-negotiable. This prince wants to join the elite mage camp. What he meant was, if you don't want to see your dear fiancé and Chen Lian being lovey-dovey for the next few years, then you should obediently follow the man you married and follow him to the elite camp of the continent with me. Yunsheng wanted to refute, but for some reason, when she thought of Yi Beiming and Chen Lian's faces overlapping, she felt a little depressed. However, she still refused to admit it. I'm not going. Yi Beiming persisted, if you want to learn dark magic, then you must go to the elite mage camp. When Yunsheng heard about dark magic, she was like a cat that had heard a fish. She immediately perked up. Dark magic. Most of Yunsheng's magic, including wind, earth, water and fire, had already reached the intermediate level. She had even comprehended some profound magic. However, her dark magic was still stuck at the most basic level. There was no other reason other than the fact that the Mage Temple had banned it, so there were very few opportunities to learn dark magic on the continent. Yunsheng could only rely on the books in the Royal Magic Academy, so there was no way for her to learn dark magic of a higher level. Therefore, when she suddenly heard that the elite mage camp could learn dark magic, Yunsheng had such a reaction. You're not tricking me, are you? How can the elite mage camp break the rules and learn dark magic? Yunsheng did not understand. The mainland's understanding of dark magic is a little extreme. However, due to the huge influence of the Temple of Sorcery, most countries, including Tang Yuan, rarely see traces of dark magic. However, the mainland's magic elite camp is different. They only have one purpose, which is to pursue the highest level of magic and battle techniques. Regardless of whether it is light magic or dark magic, they are all magic. As Yi Beiming narrated, Yunsheng roughly pictured the mainland's magic elite camp in her mind. It was a concentration camp for warriors and magicians. Everywhere, there were madmen who were obsessed with magic and battle techniques. However, Yunsheng did not feel the slightest bit of fear. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent. This was Yunsheng. Yunsheng was like this, and so was Yi Beiming. I will find a way to rush back. Yunsheng calculated her itinerary. It seemed that she had to change her traveling method. Yunsheng's zither skills had improved under Yi Beiming's guidance. Her performance of the last 3 movements of the Di Hong song was also decent. At the end, Yi Beiming did not forget to remind Yunsheng, the power of the Di Hong song cannot be displayed without a corresponding instrument. You must not play it rashly. Yunsheng also had a sense of propriety. She had already asked Zhu Qingchuan to use the power of the everlasting Chamber of Commerce to search for a good zither. Before that, she would not use the Di Hong song in battle. After a few more days, Yunsheng finally arrived at the border between the Immortal Residence and Tang Yuan. Yunsheng had been to the border between the later Qin and Zhou state. She had also been to the border between Zhou state and Tang Yuan. However, There was no border like the one between Tang Yuan and the immortal residence. Most of the countries would build a common city between them. However, there was no city between Tang Yuan and the immortal residence. The border of the immortal residence is just ahead. We can only send you here. A few of the Tang Yuan guards in charge of escorting them asked. Chapter 466. Yun Sheng looked ahead with a face full of suspicion. You're saying that behind the sea of trees is the immortal Ju nation? Not to mention Yun Sheng, even Yuan Bu Po and Xian Maimai were at a loss. They had all heard that the immortal Ju nation was the Elven nation. It was normal for the Elven nation to have some special features. But this sea of trees, a sea of white that looked like it was covered in snow, was this really the immortal Ju nation? This was the most distinct border between the two nations. On one side was the lush Tang Yuan nation, and on the other side was the snowy Snow nation. Yun Sheng had originally planned to ask around for the whereabouts of the divine wind after entering the immortal Ju nation. But now, it seemed that she had to find someone from the immortal Ju nation to ask. Miss Yun, to be exact, that sea of trees is the border of the immortal Ju nation. The soldiers looked troubled. After some thought, they still explained to Yun Sheng. The Sea of White was also known as the Snow Forest Sea. The trees there were white all year round. The Sea of Trees had no borders. No one knew where the end of the Sea of Trees was. But one thing was for sure. The immortal Ju nation was deep within the Snow Forest Sea. Isn't there a guide? Facing a completely unfamiliar area, Yuan Bu Po did not dare to advance recklessly. One thing was for sure. Flying magical beasts could not fly in this area. The Elven tribe and their descendants were very good at magic, especially archery. This was known to all. If they forced their way in, they would be shot into a hornet's nest. To be honest, there are only two outcomes for people from the Tang Yuan nation who enter the Snow Forest Sea. Those with pure intentions will return to the exit. But those with evil intentions will never be able to find the exit. They will be trapped in the immortal Ju nation forever. Therefore, even though this area was the border between the Tang Yuan nation and the immortal Ju nation, the Tang Yuan nation had never sent a single soldier to guard this place. Because no one would be stupid enough to enter the Snow Forest Sea. Even magical beasts can't enter. Yuan Bu Po did not give up. Ordinary magical beasts will freeze to death if they enter the Snow Forest Sea. The queen of the elven race once commanded a divine beast. Tang Yuan's guards shook their heads. Ordinary magical beasts would be so scared that they wouldn't be able to move once they got close. Yuan Bu Po was hesitant. Yun Sheng, Maimai, why don't we retreat to the Tang Yuan nation and discuss if we should enter the Snow Forest Sea? No. We must go in, Yun Sheng and Xian Maimai said in unison. This time, they had the same opinion. The two looked at each other and turned their heads away at the same time. Yuan Bu Po was speechless. Maimai, of course. Maimai of the immortal Ju nation of the immortal Ju of the immortal Ju nation. She was my mortal she of Yun Maimai of the life of life. She didn't have much time left. There was only a little more than a month left until the selection of the continent's magic elite camp. She couldn't afford to waste too much time. Xian Maimai, you really dare to go in? Aren't you afraid you won't be able to return? Yun Sheng wanted to go in, but she was not willing to go in with Xian Maimai. Xian Maimai's chest was not big, but she was not smart either. After leaving the Tang Yuan nation, Xian Maimai had been arguing with her. Since they were already at the immortal residence, Xian Maimai could not be bothered to go with her. Xian Maimai felt guilty after being mocked by Xian Maimai. But in front of Yuan Bu Po, she would never admit that she did not dare to enter the Snow Forest Sea. If you insist on going in, then we'll take our leave first. The wind from the Snow Forest Sea is bone-chilling. Our cultivation levels are not as high as yours. If we get too much of it, I'm afraid our bodies won't be able to take it. These Tang Yuan soldiers were also magicians. At this moment, they were shivering. Yun Sheng, Yuan Bu Po, and the rest entered the Snow Forest Sea. When they first entered the Snow Forest Sea, they felt like they had entered a world of ice and snow. The trees in the Snow Forest Sea were completely white. The trunks of the trees were like icicles. The leaves on the trees were like pine needles. But every leaf was sparkling like ice. It was as if they would break with a touch. Walking in the Snow Forest Sea, they could only hear the sound of the wind. A narrow entrance appeared in front of them. It was said that this was the entrance to the Snow Forest Sea. I will walk in front. You two follow behind me. Yuan Bu Po could not argue with the two of them. He could only bite the bullet and walk forward. It was a coincidence. The three of them had risked their lives in the geocentric cave last time. Now, they were venturing into the Snow Forest Sea together. But compared to the geocentric cave, the Snow Forest Sea was like ice and fire. Little red and blue danced on Yuan Bu Po's body. The red and blue feathers danced happily in the Snow Forest Sea. This place was really cold. Fortunately, Yun Sheng had the spirit firebrand on her body. She could not feel the cold. Yuan Bu Po was a man, so his body was better. Xian Mai was not so lucky. She was just a sorcerer. Her body was average. After a few steps, she froze and could not walk anymore. Brother Bu Po, I can't walk anymore. Xian Mai complained. Carry me. Mai, let's walk for a while. Eat something and recover some energy before we continue. Yuan Bu Po glanced at Yun Sheng. At that moment, Yun Sheng was carving a mark on a cedar tree beside her. They had walked for a while. But Yun Sheng had an illusion that they were in the same place. They kept going back and forth. Xian Mai took out some food from her storage ring. Xian Mai took out a water bag from her storage ring. She wanted to drink some water. But after a long time, not a single drop of water came out. She took a closer look and realized that the water in the water bag that they had prepared before entering was completely frozen. It was the same for the other water bags. She looked at the food. It was the same. The meat and dry food were all frozen hard. If she bit into them, she would break her teeth. Because of this, the food and water that they had prepared before entering the Snow Forest Sea were all wasted. What the hell is this place? I want to get out. Xian Mai was anxious and panicked. She threw the water bag on the ground. At this moment, Xian Mai was truly afraid. Rather than being trapped here to death, she would rather live her life with this ugly face. Yuan Bu Po checked his storage ring. The items inside were the same. They were all frozen and could not be used or consumed. This has happened before in the geocentric cave. I think it's due to the influence of a special magic element. The immortal Ju nation was indeed a land of fairies. The magic of outsiders would be greatly affected here. Yun Sheng was not too surprised. When Tang Yuan's guards talked about how scary the Snow Forest Sea was, she was already mentally prepared. Gradually, the few of them left the core area of the Snow Forest Sea and entered the outer area. Just as Yun Sheng and the others entered the outer area of the Snow Forest Sea, in a majestic city not far from the Snow Forest Sea, a few white-haired, blue-eyed elven archers who looked like enlarged versions of the spirit butterfly heard the alarm. There are outsiders in the direction of the Snow Forest Sea. As if they were facing a great enemy, the elven soldiers immediately gathered more than 100 people and rushed towards the Snow Forest Sea. Quick, look in front. We should have already entered the immortal Ju nation. After running for a while, Yun Sheng and the others were exhausted. The spirit butterfly danced happily in the air. At the end of the Snow Forest Sea, a few miles away, they could see a majestic city of ice and snow. The city of ice and snow was like a palace that only existed in fairy tales. Under the bright sunlight, it reflected a colorful luster. Yuan Bu Po had always thought that the Grand Empress city was the real city. However, compared to the city of ice and snow in front of him, he, who came from the Grand Empress city, felt ashamed. The elves and their descendants craftsmen were world famous. The city they built was so beautiful that it did not seem like a palace in the mortal world. The three of them walked forward. Suddenly, little Honglan let out a sharp cry in the sky. Then, more than 100 snow-white figures appeared in the sky. They were elven archers. Their white hair danced in the wind and they held magic boughs in their hands. The person in the lead had an exquisite face like an ice sculpture. However, his expression was cold. Outsiders. What's your purpose in entering the immortal Dew Nation? The Snow Forest Sea was not an ordinary forest. It was an illusion array set up by the intelligent elven ancestors. Ordinary people could not pass through it. For many years, Icefall City, which was the outermost and most important defensive city of the immortal Dew Nation, relied on the Snow Forest Sea to defend against foreign enemies. However, some outsiders would unintentionally break the illusion array of the Forest Sea and break into Icefall City. The elves, who didn't like fighting, would erase the memories of outsiders who accidentally broke in and send them out. However, the elves would imprison those who tried to spy on the elves' treasures forever in Icefall City. Therefore, Icefall City was also where the elves' biggest prison was located. Although these elves looked very beautiful, their faces were cold, and this place was also very cold. We're here to look for the water of life. After seeing the elves, Xian Maimai thought that everything was safe. She could not wait to find the water of life and leave this damned place as soon as possible. When Yun Sheng heard this, he almost cursed out loud. Most elves did not seem to understand the human language. The captain who could understand the human language understood Xian Meimei's words. Human thieves, catch them. She had seen stupid people, but she had never seen such stupid people. Xian Meimei's words were like a robber running to the police and yelling, "This is a robbery, take out your guns." The water of life was the holy water of the elves. Even the elven royal family could not obtain much of it in a year. Xian Maimai, an intruder, actually asked for the water of life. Sure enough, the elven archers of the Ice Clan all frowned. The boughs in their hands flickered with magic light. Run! Being faced by 100 elven archers who were good at shooting, Yun Sheng's first reaction was to run without any hesitation. With a whoosh, a magic ice arrow fell on a stone beside Yun Sheng. Whoosh, another arrow was shot, and the rock immediately exploded. A magic array quickly formed between the two arrows. Almost at the same time, Yun Sheng, Yuan Bupo, and the others felt the magic souls in their bodies stiffen. A strange feeling surrounded them. Not good. Their Dharma souls were sealed. Cold sweat appeared on the foreheads of the three people. There will be a major turning point next. Here, wait for me to smash my phone. I'm going to write, Happy National Day, double monthly ticket period, true love, Kang Meng Star. Chapter 468. Magic Seal. It was the elf tribe's most unique magic that could seal a person's magic power instantly. The three of them did not run away. Facing a group of winged archers, running away seemed to be an unwise choice. The three of them were tied up, their magic scepters and musical instruments were taken away. Even Xiao Honglan's wings were tied up and they were taken to Icefall City. The fairy butterfly saw that Yun Sheng was taken away and hesitated for a moment before it flapped its wings and escaped. When they were close to Icefall City, Yun Sheng noticed that the city was built in front of a huge icefall. The icefall formed a natural city wall. They passed through the icefall and walked inside. They saw many pointy-eared elves along the street. Those with wings were real elves. The rest looked similar to humans. Those without wings were the descendants of elves and humans. The elf tribe did not have a good impression of humans. After knowing that Yun Sheng and the rest were here to steal the water of life, the three of them were locked up in Icefall City's prison. Yun Sheng and Xian Maimai were locked up in Icefall City's prison. It was a natural ice house. The prison cells here were separated into male and female cells. They were locked up separately. No one knew where Yuan Bu Po was locked up. Looking at the cold cave, Xian Meimei's face was filled with fear. Yun Sheng also frowned. There were already more than 30 prisoners in the prison. They were all women. These women were of different ages. Most of them were in their 30s or 40s. Looking at their figures, they were either mags or warriors. They had been locked up for a long time. Their skin was pale due to the lack of sunlight. When the two of them walked in, they felt like sheep walking into a tiger's den. The elves walked away. "Newcomer, take off all your clothes and shoes." The one who spoke was a female warrior sitting on the far left. She spoke in a rough voice as she stared at Xian Meimei's clothes fiercely. There were 7 to 8 female prisoners sitting next to her. Xian Meimei was wearing a mage's robe with beautiful workmanship. Her leather boots were also exquisite. Yun Sheng, on the other hand, was wearing ordinary clothes for convenience. Xian Meimei raised her head in disdain. "Who are you to order me around? Do you know that I am?" Before Xian Meimei could finish, a fist came flying over. She immediately covered her face and screamed, "You dare to hit me? You lowly prisoner, how dare you hit me? What a picky little wench. Go pull out her teeth one by one." Xian Meimei did not have good eyesight. This female warrior was obviously the leader of this prison. In this prison cell, most of the prisoners had their Dharma souls and battle chi sealed with a special method after they were locked up. In addition, their belongings and magic scepters had all been taken away. At this moment, their ability to resist was very limited. But that female warrior was different. Even if a warrior didn't have Do Chi, she could still rely on her innate strength and tyrannical physique to be much stronger than an average adult male. Xian Meimei was used to being rude and unreasonable. Today was the first time she suffered. As soon as the female warrior's voice fell, several female prisoners pounced on Xian Meimei like wolves and tigers and pressed her to the ground. "No, help! Yun Sheng, save me!" Xian Meimei remembered that she still had Yun Sheng as her companion. The veil on her face had long been torn off. In her panic, the sand and snow on the ground splashed on her face, making her look even uglier. The female warrior looked at Yun Sheng with disdain. "What could a thin and weak female mage do? You want to resist? I advise you to obediently take off all your clothes and shoes. This is a rule for newcomers. I am the boss here, Yi Xia. There are some rules in this prison cell. You'd better remember them clearly," Yi Xia said slowly. This prison cell was the only female prison in Icefall City. There were 32 female prisoners here. Yi Xia was the most senior one here. Before she was imprisoned, she was a powerful martial artist from the later Qin dynasty. After she came to this prison cell, she made a few rules. The first rule: when newcomers came in, all their clothes and shoes, except for their underwear, must be given to Yi Xia. The second rule: there will be a meal in the prison cell every day. For the first 3 days, food and water must be given to Yi Xia out of respect. The third rule: absolutely obey Yi Xia's orders. Do you all understand these 3 rules? Yi Xia said fiercely. "I heard you." Yun Sheng lowered her head, looking very obedient. She took the initiative to take off her coat and shoes. It was very cold in the female prison. After taking off her coat and shoes, it was even colder when she stepped on the ground barefoot. The elves didn't kill these foreign invaders, but they would lock them in the prison cell forever and give them only 1 meal a day. Between the prisoners, because of fighting for food or because their clothes were stolen, every once in a while, some people would die. It was also because of this that the number of people in the female prison decreased day by day, and those who survived became more and more indifferent. Regarding the evil deeds of the few people led by Yi Xia, most of the other people in the prison cell opened their eyes and closed their eyes. "You're quite obedient. Bring everything over." Yi Xia saw that Yun Sheng was so obedient and relaxed her vigilance against her. Yun Sheng walked forward. Just as she approached Yi Xia, she quickly covered Yi Xia's head with the clothes in her hands. She bent her knees and slammed them into Yi Xia's knees. Beside her, several female prisoners turned pale with fright. They all jumped up, wanting to grab Yun Sheng. "Whoever dares to come over, I'll poke her eyes blind." Yun Sheng sneered and pressed her finger on Yi Xia's eyes. The latter felt waves of stinging pain in her eyes. This female magician's strength was very great, not inferior to that of an ordinary warrior. Yi Xia naturally wouldn't have thought that Yun Sheng was not an ordinary female magician. She had stayed in Wushuan Limitless School before. Although she didn't have a magic scepter or a beast language ring at the moment, with her jade marrow technique and physique, it was more than enough to survive in the female prison cell. Little hussy, you dare. Yi Xia's head was covered by the clothes and her throat was choked by Yun Sheng. Her face was red from suffocation. Before she broke into the immortal residence country, she was a fugitive who lived by robbing and killing. Because she was wanted by the officials of various countries, she was chased until she had nowhere to go and mistakenly entered this forest. She didn't expect to fall into the hands of the elves and be locked in this prison for 10 whole years. In these 10 years, she had almost never been defeated. Many new female prisoners who came in were tortured to death by her. Who knew that today, she would kick an iron plate on Yun Sheng's body. You can try. Yun Sheng didn't have the slightest intention of letting go. If you dare to hurt me, your companion is dead. Yi Xia was certain that Yun Sheng came with Xian Maimai. Whether she lives or dies, what does it have to do with me? Yun Sheng smiled coldly. Chapter 469. Xian Meimei's face turned ashen when she heard this. She glared at Yun Sheng with hatred. Yi Xia hesitated when she saw their reactions. What do you want? It's very simple. You be the boss, and I'll be the newcomer. I'm not willing to follow any of your 3 stupid rules. After Yun Sheng finished speaking, she suddenly raised her elbows and grabbed Yi Xia's shoulders with both hands. She only exerted a little strength. Yi Xia only felt a catcher sound coming from his hand. He was thrown out and fell flat on his face. Yi Xia struggled to get up from the ground. She felt a huge pain in her shoulders. She took a closer look and realized that her shoulders had been dislocated in an instant. She glanced at Yun Sheng and then at Xian Maimai. Viciousness flashed across her eyes. Let her go. Yi Xia did not dare to be presumptuous when she realized that Yun Sheng was not an ordinary person. She asked someone to let go of Xian Maimai. Xian Maimai quickly ran behind Yun Sheng. Although she still hated Yun Sheng, she could see that under such harsh conditions, without Yun Sheng, she would not have a chance to survive. These people who were locked up in the prison were all fugitives. After this fight, there was a temporary peace in the women's prison. Yun Sheng ignored Xian Maimai. She found a quiet corner in the prison and rested. Xian Maimai curled up into a ball and widened her eyes, guarding against Yi Xia and the others. In an area far away from the women's prison, Yuan Bupo, who was locked up in the men's prison, was anxious. There were more men's prison cells in Icefall City. Yuan Bupo was locked up in a cell with 8 people. Most of them accidentally broke into the Snow Forest Sea and were locked up here. You said that your 2 companions are locked up in the women's prison? Sigh, I'm afraid they're doomed. Yuan Bupo asked around and found out that the living environment of the women's prison was much worse than that of the men's. Why do you say that? I don't think the elves are torturing us, nor are they harsh on us. Yuan Bupo also tried to shout, asking the elves to lock him up with Yun Sheng and the others, but the elves completely ignored him. The elves were known for being peace-loving and not bloodthirsty. Along the way, Yuan Bupo did not see any torture tools. That's what you think. There's nothing scarier than endless imprisonment. The boss of the women's cell is called Yi Xia. That person used to be a murderer. If your 2 companions are more docile, they might be able to endure less torture. But if they have a bad temper, they might be tortured to death. The prisoner in the same cell shook his head. Yi Xia is nothing. At most, it's just a competition of torture. If we meet that she-devil. The person who spoke had a face full of fear. The others also revealed looks of horror. What she-devil? Yuan Bupo was worried. Unfortunately, the Yun Sheng he knew was definitely not a docile person. After an unknown period of time, the elves delivered food once As soon as the food was delivered, everyone fought for it. Yi Xia's shoulder had yet to be reattached, and it hurt terribly. She did not dare to fight with Yun Sheng again. After eating a few mouthfuls of food that she did not know the taste of, Yun Sheng leaned against the wall. Yi Xia's words earlier still lingered in her ears. She said that she had been in this cell for 10 years. Did that mean that there was no hope for her to escape once she was locked up? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the door opening. On the other side of the cell, the door was opened. Bang! 2 elven soldiers threw a woman with wounds all over her body into the cell. When the woman was thrown in, Yi Xia, who was in the corner, trembled. She was like a hungry wolf that suddenly saw a lion standing in front of her. In the cell, the female prisoners who were minding their own business turned their heads around. It was obvious that the female prisoner had been severely tortured. The clothes on her back were torn, and her flesh was badly mutilated. Her pale bones could be vaguely seen. Despite that, the female prisoner's hands and feet were still shackled. This was obviously different from the other female prisoners in the cell. The elves were not violent. After they had locked a person's combat energy and Dharma soul, they would not be shackled in the cell. From this, it could be seen that this female prisoner who was being tortured must have committed some heinous crime. The female prisoner was unconscious. She lay on the ground as if she was dead. The atmosphere in the female prisoner's cell became tense. Yun Sheng looked at the wounds on the female prisoner's body. Her healer's blood was boiling. She stood up and wanted to go forward to take a look. "Don't move. Are you trying to get us killed?" Yi Xia scolded fiercely. "She's severely injured, and she's having a fever." Yun Sheng knew that the female prisoner had a fever when she saw her panting and her heaving chest. In this kind of environment, if the wounds were not treated, the female prisoner's situation would be very dangerous. "She'll die. What a joke." Yi Xia snorted, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. Yun Sheng was too lazy to argue with her. She walked forward and wanted to take a look at the woman's wounds. As soon as she walked in, there was an uproar. A black shadow swept over. It turned out that the female prisoner was not completely unconscious. When she heard the footsteps, she subconsciously flew up and the iron chains on her hands and feet rolled towards Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng did not expect that a seriously injured prisoner with a high fever would be so agile. However, Yun Sheng's reaction was not slow. She slipped and her body moved back a few meters, just brushing past the female prisoner's iron chains. "I'm a doctor." "If you don't want the wounds on your back to rupture and die from a high fever, it's best to let me take a look at your wounds." Yun Sheng observed and found that Yi Xia's group, for unknown reasons, were very afraid of this female prisoner. The more this was the case, the more she wanted to be on good terms with this female prisoner. Yun Sheng knew very well that she could not be locked up here forever. Since this female prisoner had been taken out for interrogation, there must be a special reason. Perhaps she could find out a way to escape from the prison from her. Hearing Yun Sheng's words, the female prisoner stopped in her tracks. She looked up and her hair was thrown aside, revealing a mask. The patterns on the mask were very strange. Only a pair of eyes were revealed, but even just a pair of eyes lit up the entire cell in an instant. It was a pair of almond-shaped eyes. Under her thick and long eyelashes, her pitch-black eyes were like the night stars. Even in a country like the Elf Kingdom that was rich in beautiful men and women, it was difficult to find such a pair of soul-stirring eyes. Just these eyes alone made it easy to guess that the female prisoner must be very beautiful. Other than the mask on her face, the woman's entire body was like a jade sculpture. Her hair was silvery white, and other than the mask, the rest of her skin was like the finest cloud satin, exuding a seductive charm from her bones. She was a natural beauty, and her entire person was so unreal. Chapter 470. You're a doctor. The woman's eyes were very beautiful, but her voice was very unpleasant. When it landed in her ears, it was as if a file was being scraped hard. "I'm a doctor from Ju State." Ju State. A trace of hesitation flashed across the woman's eyes. The female prisoner heard Yun Sheng mention Ju State. Where was Ju State? The name sounded a little familiar. The female prisoner felt a dull pain in her head. She wanted to think clearly, but her mind was muddled. There seemed to be a hand in her mind. Every time she vaguely recalled a figure, that hand would quickly scatter her memories. This female prisoner was a felon. After Yun Sheng and the others were locked in prison, their shackles were removed. However, this female prisoner's hands and feet were all shackled with magic shackles. Moreover, upon closer inspection, one would find that her magic shackles were very special. They were actually magic shackles made of a mixture of 4 magic elements. The cold magic shackles made her slender limbs look even thinner. Her body shook and she fell to the ground on her back, making a dull sound. When the people in the ice prison saw that the masked female prisoner had fallen, no one dared to go forward. All of them only avoided the masked female prisoner vigilantly. Xian Maimai, help me carry her to the corner. Yun Sheng gave Xian Maimai a look. Xian Maimai walked over reluctantly. Yun Sheng was her backer now. Yun Sheng lifted the woman's long hair and saw her wound. What a serious injury. Yun Sheng had seen countless thrilling scenes since she started practicing medicine, but this was the first time she saw such a shocking wound on a woman's body. There were hundreds of messy whip wounds, some horizontal, some vertical, all over the place. Compared to the skin on the masked female prisoner's body, it was even more shocking. What kind of felony would make the elves, who had always loved peace, treat this female prisoner so heavily? What did she do? Why did she have to be punished so severely? Yun Sheng was puzzled as she checked the wound. No one in the cell answered. Yun Sheng didn't ask further. In this cell, people's hearts were as cold as ice. Her body is so hot, Xian Maimai exclaimed. Yun Sheng touched the woman's forehead. Sure enough, it was scalding hot. Yun Sheng checked the woman's pulse and heartbeat, and found that her heartbeat was very fast, and her body temperature was shockingly high. The wound must have been infected, causing tetanus. If the fever didn't subside, even if the woman managed to survive by the time dawn came, she would have turned into a retard. Yun Sheng couldn't help but frown. The facilities in the cell were very simple. There wasn't even a bed. Her orc speech ring and magic scepter had all been confiscated. He didn't have any medicine or tools on hand. What should he do? Yun Sheng thought for a while. She couldn't cook without rice. In a situation where there was no medicine to be used, she could only use the materials on the ground. She casually grabbed a handful of clean snow from the ground. There was nothing in the ice cell except for snow everywhere. Yun Sheng quickly squeezed the snow into a small ball and threw a piece to Xian Maimai. What are you doing? Xian Maimai was annoyed. Let's cool her down physically. You use this snowball to follow my method and gestures. Wipe her armpits, knees, armpits, limbs, and her entire body until her body temperature drops. After Yun Sheng finished speaking, she took the lead and started to move her hands. You want me to serve a female prisoner? Xian Maimai's spoiled temper flared up again. You're also a female prisoner now. Either you help or get lost. Yun Sheng shouted sternly. Xian Maimai was frightened by Yun Sheng's imposing manner. She could only look at Yun Sheng's actions with resentment. Following Yun Sheng's instructions, she squeezed the snowball and wiped the masked female prisoner's body. There were only women in the female prison. Yun Sheng didn't have any concerns. She took off the woman's outer clothes. The woman's outer clothes had long been torn apart. The outer clothes were still covered with flesh and blood. With a rip, a large piece of skin on the woman's back was torn off. Even Yun Sheng's heart trembled for no reason when she made her move. The woman, who had fallen into a coma due to her high fever, stiffened her back and didn't make any unnecessary sounds. This was a very strong-willed woman. She wouldn't beg for mercy even when she was being tortured. Yun Sheng thought as she continued to wipe the woman with ice and snow. Xian Maimai wiped for an hour and refused to do any more. Yun Sheng could only hold on by herself. After 5 to 6 hours, Yun Sheng's fingers were stiff. A layer of ice had formed on the woman's body and then evaporated into a thin layer of mist. The temperature of the masked female prisoner's body had also dropped. Yun Sheng touched the woman's forehead with her hand. After confirming that the fever had subsided, she breathed a sigh of relief. Her body temperature is normal. She'll be fine after drinking some water. Yun Sheng also noticed that the woman didn't look very strong, but her recovery ability was amazing. The whip wounds that were fatal had actually healed spontaneously after 12 to 12 hours. The whip wounds on her back had already scabbed over on their own without the use of any medicine. Presumably, her wounds would be healed in a few days. When Yun Sheng examined the woman, she also secretly paid attention to the woman's body. She didn't find any fighting energy or magic power in the woman's body. It seemed that this masked female prisoner, who was a taboo in the female prison, wasn't a warrior. She wasn't even a magician. Then who was she? Why was her self-healing ability so amazing? Among all the patients that Yun Sheng had come in contact with, only Yi Beiming had a self-healing ability comparable to this masked female prisoner. The physiques of the masked female prisoner and Yi Beiming could be regarded as monstrous. 5 to 6 hours had passed. In the female prison, most of the female prisoners were either asleep or in a daze. This was the normal pace of life in the female prison. Only Yi Xia, after learning that Yun Sheng was a doctor, had been secretly observing Yun Sheng. "Are you really a doctor?" Yi Xia suddenly opened her mouth. For 5 to 6 hours, Yi Xia had been watching Yun Sheng's movements from the side. She didn't expect that this thin girl was actually a doctor. Yun Sheng didn't say a word. She took out the fresh water that was sent yesterday and fed it to the woman's mouth. "I advise you not to save her. Even the elves have to retreat from this woman. Maybe the first thing she will do when she wakes up is to kill you." After learning about Yun Sheng's identity, Yi Xia wanted to befriend her. She pointed to her arm that was still hanging down. "Put my arm back and I will tell you about this woman." Yi Xia had been in the prison for 10 years and had seen all kinds of people. She also saw that Yun Sheng was very interested in the masked female prisoner. Yun Sheng didn't say much. She stepped forward, grabbed Yi Xia's arm, and pulled it hard. With a crack, Yi Xia twisted her hand and found that her hand, which had been completely numb, had recovered. Chapter 471. Before Yi Xia was locked up in the female prison, she was a wanted warrior. She had been on the run for many years, so she knew some superficial martial arts. When Yun Sheng dislocated her arm, she thought that she was careless and accidentally fell into the other party's ambush. However, when she secretly wanted to set her arm back, she found that Yun Sheng's treatment method was very special. She actually couldn't set her broken arm back. Yi Xia naturally didn't know that Yun Sheng's treatment method was special because she secretly used a hidden needle when she made the move. If Yun Sheng didn't personally treat the needle, Yi Xia's arm wouldn't be able to recover for the rest of her life. Seeing that her arm had recovered, Yi Xia opened her mouth to speak. "That woman is a lunatic. Not long after she was locked up, she killed an elven guard who came to deliver food." When Yi Xia talked about that incident, she couldn't help but shiver. She boasted that she was a murderer who killed people without batting an eyelid, but after being locked up in the ice prison, she didn't dare to act presumptuously. The magic arrows of the elves were really powerful. Anyone who was shot would have their movement restricted, and the magic souls of the magicians sealed. Without the magic of the elves, it was impossible to recover. As a result, these once notorious fugitives didn't dare to act presumptuously in the ice prison of Icefall City. But that masked female prisoner was different. Her skills seemed to have nothing to do with magic power or do qi. She killed that elven guard in the blink of an eye. It was also because of this incident that the elves, who had always loved peace and didn't want to kill, took special care of the masked female prisoner. Not only did they put her in shackles, they also imposed additional punishments on her. Every 10 days, the elven guards would take the masked female prisoner out alone and give her 100 lashes. The elves' weapons were all very powerful and could slowly wear down a person's magic soul and do qi. This female prisoner had been locked up for more than 3 years and had been whipped more than 30 times. She became weaker each time, but she was able to survive every time. This time was the most serious. If it weren't for Yun Sheng, she probably wouldn't have been able to survive. That female prisoner was actually able to kill an elven guard in one move. When Yun Sheng heard this, she still didn't believe it. The elves of Icefall City were the bravest and most warlike elven warriors of the Immortal Keeper Nation. Their elven magic was very powerful, and most of them cultivated both magic and martial arts. In a situation where her magic soul was suppressed and her do-chi circulation was impeded, she was still able to kill him in a single move. Just how powerful was this masked woman? As he spoke, the woman on the ground let out a soft sound. "You saved me." The woman's ear-piercing voice sounded from behind him. Although she had just woken up, her voice sounded very clear. She didn't sound like someone who had almost died from a high fever. From this, it could be seen how amazing her recovery ability was. Although the masked female prisoner did not say anything, the moment she woke up, she began to examine her body. Upon examination, she discovered that her injuries were especially serious this time around. While she was unconscious, she could feel that someone was constantly cooling her down. At the same time, that person was constantly whispering in her ear, "Hang in there." That voice was very friendly. "Senior, you're awake." Yun Sheng was not frightened by Yi Xia's words. When she heard Yun Sheng's voice, the masked female prisoner's brain suddenly twitched. The masked female prisoner curled up her body, not knowing whether it was because of pain or because of her injuries. "What's wrong with you? Are you still not feeling well?" Yun Sheng wanted to go forward and check. The woman forcefully shook off Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng was not on guard and was thrown out. "Don't touch me," the masked female prisoner said fiercely. "I forgot to tell you that this woman hates being touched. The last person who touched her was torn into two by her. She's just like a wild beast." Yi Xia watched from the side and rejoiced in other people's misfortune. "She deliberately didn't tell me." Yun Sheng glanced at Yi Xia. Yi Xia did have the intention to harm Yun Sheng. Who told Yun Sheng to give her a show of strength as soon as she entered the cell? In this female prison, other than the masked female prisoner who was like a killing machine, Yi Xia had never been bullied by anyone else. She couldn't wait for Yun Sheng to anger the masked female prisoner and be torn in half. However, the masked female prisoner looked a little strange today. If it was any other day, Yun Sheng would have been killed long ago. She seemed to have hit her hard just now, but compared to her previous fierceness, it was nothing. After the masked female prisoner threw Yun Sheng away, she gasped for breath and looked at Yun Sheng warily. She was a very beautiful young lady, and it was easy for people to have a good impression of her. Although she was unreasonably thrown away, she didn't seem angry. Soon, the masked female prisoner noticed the water bag beside her. That was the young lady's water. A trace of surprise flashed through the masked female's eyes. She understood that it was the young lady who had been taking care of her last night. She even left her own water for her. "Senior, I didn't mean to offend you." Yun Sheng no longer pestered her and didn't look angry. She found a clean corner and sat down, closed her eyes and rested. Without magic power and with the demon sealing arrow, she was busy all night and her situation wasn't good. Not long after the masked female prisoner woke up, the elven guards brought dry food and water as usual. Unlike the previous scene of a hubbub, this time, no one in the prison dared to rob her. Everyone looked at the masked female prisoner. As long as the masked female prisoner wasn't taken out and tortured, the female prisoners in the female prison were most in awe of her. She didn't move, and the others didn't dare to step forward. Even Yi Xia didn't move. Time seemed to have frozen. The masked female prisoner moved, and the magic chains on her body made an uproar on the ground. "You, take it first." The masked female prisoner said was Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng was surprised. Was she repaying her for saving her life last night? Yun Sheng didn't refuse. The food and water in the ice prison was very limited. Everyone only had one meal a day. For Yun Sheng, who was used to 3 meals a day, this was obviously not enough. Under the gaze of dozens of people in the ice prison, Yunsheng took 2 portions of water and 2 portions of dry food. Xian Maimai, who was at the side, was also starving. Seeing that Yunsheng could take the food, she mustered up her courage and walked forward. "Get lost, who do you think you are?" The masked female prisoner waved the chain in her hand. The magic chain looked thick and heavy, but in the hands of the masked female prisoner, it was like a dancer's sleeves, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. Pa! The chain smashed down. Xian Maimai screamed and covered her hand. A piece of flesh had been torn off her arm, and blood flowed out. "I'm her companion," Xian Maimai cried. The masked female prisoner looked at Yunsheng. Yunsheng took a bite of dry food, drank a mouthful of water, and chewed a few mouthfuls. Her face was expressionless. Yunsheng wouldn't easily forget what Grand Emperor City had done to the Yun residents. She wasn't a saint. Yunsheng's indifference was undoubtedly the best denial. "Yunsheng, wait until I get out. I won't let you off." Xian Maimai covered her wound and cursed fiercely. She couldn't wait to tear Yunsheng apart. Yunsheng's meaning was very clear. Xian Maimai didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore. She could only put down the food and water and retreat. Yunsheng said indifferently, "It's not too late to say ruthless words when you can get out." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.